going to be there by by Sunday. If I drive all the way from Seattle to Texas, you're down in Austin, right? Or are you one of those fake Texans that just says you're from Texas? You're down in
Austin. What? No, I'm from Fort Worth, man. There's not a shot in hell that I'm from Austin. Austin.
Oh. I hate all of you so much, Texas Skulls. He's from the inferior part of Texas, and it's okay he doesn't admit it yet. So it's something that's going to have to slowly work its way over time into his bloodstream, so that he can admit that later that he's wrong. But that's just me.
I'm from the no sleep part of Texas.
He's from. I think all of Texas is the no sleeper part of Texas right now, because I'm feeling the same thing. Like, I was able to sleep like 7 hours this morning, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I can have more than 4 hours of sleep. Yeah. Anyways, welcome to the Captain's Table. Hopefully everything is working properly and you can hear all of us and such. Because if you are, that means that the experiment is working, and I actually have this being pushed to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. And on YouTube, it's going to be just put up immediately right after this one. So you guys who have missed it should be able to watch it right away. And hopefully it's good quality. And it's also a special one because right now we're in the middle of the 7 Days of Valor, which is a group effort of Star Citizen streamers to raise money for Stack Up, which is an organization that helps veterans with video games. And so I invited Texas Skulls and Snake Eater and Toy Grubbin to come on because Texas Skulls was an Air Force veteran, Snake Eater is an Army veteran, and Toy Grubbin is a Marine veteran. So I wanted them to talk a little bit of their own experiences, and I know Snake Eater's worked with Stack Up before as well, so he has met the Stack Up guys, so we can talk a little bit more about personal experiences, so it's not just the crazy bartender talking about how awesome this organization is. But to get us started, let's start with introductions. We're going to go around clockwise, so we'll start with HC Vertigo.
Oh, yeah.
Who the fuck doesn't know who HC Vertigo is at this point? You've been so many times on the Captain's Table. Okay, well, that's to be fair.
It's like I'm the janitor or something around here.
Yeah, it's like Jake sleeps under the under the bar, and you just clean up after all the messes. That's pretty much what it is.
Pretty much.
Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you? All that kind of stuff.
I am HC Vertigo. I am a Star Citizen streamer. You can find me on Twitch at HC Vertigo. You can find me at Twitter at HC Vertigo. I make content for Star Citizen. I do commentary for podcasts, and that's it. That's pretty much it. All I do. Right now, I'm in my PJs also.
And
it's a lazy Saturday.
You're also making. You're also doing raising money for Stack Up as well, right? It's your first fundraiser. So.
Yeah, it's my first fundraiser. My channel's starting to take off, and so I figured might as well use my position in the community to raise awareness and funds for a good cause. I mean. Isn't that what we shouldn't be doing?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yes. Totally not using this as a giant money funneling scheme into my my miniature garden that I have outside, it's cost millions of dollars. Yes. No, it's actually a really good charity, and I thank you for helping out.
No problem.
Go follow him. Then we have Sheep Citizen. Sheep Citizen, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Sheep Citizen, I swear to God, is gonna be more popular than me one day. Like Sheep Citizen is just that good of a streamer, just such a good content creator.
Isn't he the one that keeps winning giveaways on all of our channels?
All the one, every one. Yeah, Sheep Citizen, just so good, so good. You should follow Sheep Citizen.
Fixed.
Someone's gonna make a freaking account.
Follow Sheep Citizen.
Twitch.tv/sheep_citizen. Next, we've got the ever lovable, ever stressed, and much coding Texas Skulls. Who are you, Texas? What do you do in Star Citizen?
We need to Photoshop one of those little anime sweat drops on the side of his head.
There's no Twitch account for Sheep_Citizen.
Well, there is now.
Be.
Disappointed in you.
There will be now, and there we go.
Hashtag disappointed.
My name is Texas Skulls, and I guess you can find me about once a month here on Twitch at Texas Skulls, and then you can find me every once in a while on Twitter, I guess, at Texas_Skulls. I would love to be doing this some stack up stuff, but that requires actually streaming. So
And
No.
time.
there's that whole problem of streaming in time. Yeah, exactly. CIG decided to release 3.3, and now my life is over for the next while.
He's going to maintain that Apple app that you guys should really check
Yeah,
out.
how's that? How is that Star Citizen dating app? I mean, I like the idea that we have bar citizens for people to meet up, but now we have basically a Star Citizen version of Tinder.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sheep Citizen has an account, so
Yeah.
you can get to swiping today and perhaps have a date with Sheep Citizen. So
I mean, I hear she's quite hard. She's not very easy to impress.
she's more of the strong silent type,
She is. Yeah. But she's very warm at heart.
Warm at heart.
Very, very. No, whatever. I stream every once in a while. That's me.
I have your trade app up there in chat as well. Make sure you check out his trade app if you haven't already.
You have
If you
the
don't,
old link. You
is that the old link?
effer.
Yeah. Is there a new? Is it actually versmate.com now?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the first mate. That's the old
So
link.
actually, something funny. I get a ping on Reddit yesterday, and someone made a post on Reddit and said, "I think I've been the target of a Star Citizen phishing, scam, some sort of email phishing campaign." And they pulled up the email. They deleted the post not long after because I think they figured out what was going on. But they basically pulled it up and they said it sounded like it was official and it was trying to get me to sign in
For Versmate?
Well, it's because I haven't changed the email, so the emails still come from scapps@danielaburke.com.
Oh.
And the guy had just signed up to versmate.com, so I guess he was very confused about that. And I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I see where you're coming from. So but then you have people responding just immediately, kind of jumping the gun on Reddit. They're like, yeah, this is definitely phishing and a really bad attempt at it too. I pulled up the email and I'm like, man, it's pretty far from phishing. It literally just says confirm your account.
Yeah.
And it says Star Citizen apps, not CIG. But anyways, yes, there's still confusion because I've yet to change that over. Just a million things left to do. Still.
Oh, I missed. It's not Versmate. It's Versmate. That's right. My bad. There we go.
You don't know how
Versmate.
to spell, do you?
No, I'm a
Too much
teacher.
alcohol.
None of us know how to spell.
You're
you
a
know?
teacher. You don't know how to
We don't know how to
Maximum
spell. I'm an
fucking
American
true.
public school teacher. What do you think?
He's a teacher by day. It just give him a break. That's his day job, and he's not going to quit your day job. He says, "I won't."
The way that but the way that he survives his day job is by being a bartender at night.
And
Yes.
with that
Sorry,
spelling,
tonight.
he may not have control over quitting his job.
And with that, next person we have the wonderful and new face to the table, but not to Star Citizen. He's the man who makes us all look bad with the quality of his goddamn mic and his goddamn camera. Mr. Snake Eater from Snake Eater Company. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Well, if my Twitter description is to be believed, I am a U.S. Special Forces veteran, content creator, 3D artist, and gamer. I have been streaming Star Citizen for only a couple months now. I've been super welcomed into the Star Citizen community and the Star Citizen streamer circles, and it's just been an incredible experience the last few months. Got to go to TwitchCon 2018, meet a bunch of you guys in person, and since then it's just been loads and loads of fun. I do stream a few other games. I try to bring some of my military sensibilities to the experiences I have in video games, and obviously it's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of the cause that you have engineered, Astropub, the 7 Days of Valor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it works out really well because this weekend is also, it's not just Veterans Day, it's Veterans Day here in the U.S., but it's also Remembrance Day pretty much internationally. So if you guys want to support the cause, it helps NATO, all NATO countries, as well as Australia and New Zealand. They have stacks in around the world to help out. So yeah. And that is !Valor in chat if you guys want to donate there. And I'll leave the link in below in the description for you guys if you guys are interested. Well, So now is the part where we start going over what we thought we liked, we disliked, and what surprised us about this week. We're going to start back over with Snake Eater since you were the last to introduce. You're the first to go. What did you like? What did you dislike? And what surprised you about this week?
Well, let's see. What I liked was it was my first experience with the PTU this time around, and moving up into sort of live launch. I got to experience the game in like its full game loop, I guess you could say, from getting off of a space station, getting into your ship, going off to a planet side, going back up, doing some dogfighting in space, then going to another space station, doing some FPS combat, both PvP and PvE, getting rescued off of that mission when it was getting hot, going back to a space station or a planet side, and it was just intense all around, and that was super cool. I got to experience some more ships that I have never seen in person by more generous members of the Star Citizen community, and sort of got to fall in love with the 600i again, which is one of my two ships that I have, because they fixed it, and there's just nothing quite like one-shotting everything up to a constellation.
Every time I get into a 600i, I always feel like I'm some sort of pleb dressed in like my spacesuit. I always want to go. There's a suit at All-Star you can buy. It's stupidly expensive. That has the cover bun and everthing built into the jacket, pants, and nice shoes.
Yeah, they've got the jacket and everything. Even it's even got a turban that you can wear for. It's kind of like as fancy. So
I feel like I have to wear that when I'm in a 600i. It's just, and I honestly I hated the 600i when it first came out, but I've been writing inside of it recently with other viewers, and some people have been loaning it to us. They're like, it's actually kind of a nice boat to fly around in if you just want to view stuff. Like you can just go back to the bar area. Yeah. Like, just like, oh, look at the quantum drive effects while we're in the back here in the bar.
It feels like you could have a party in there. Whereas where like really the Phoenix. The Phoenix feels more like a Learjet. You sit down, you can observe and it's fun, but it feels a little bit more. I'm going from point A to point B. Whereas the 600i is just like, hey, we're just going to throw a party and just go circling around some moons.
Yeah, you can hang out in multiple areas of the ship, and there's several like looking, like viewing decks
areas. Yeah,
like that. Yeah, it's a good ship to just sort of chill out. I've been basically. It's probably going to become a tradition here at the end of my stream, just kind of cruising, put on some good tunes, hit cruise control. I'm hoping what they'll do is fix the thing, or I heard it was a bug where you can't get out of the captain's chair and have the ship continue to fly. But my hope is you can do that, put it on autopilot, get out, sit down, hands behind the head, listen to some tunes on your way out of the stream.
Well, actually, that's actually going to be part of the new flight model. You get out of your ship, it should continue to go no matter what, because it doesn't auto stop you in any way, shape, or form. Like you can't slow down unless you turn around and actually physically slow yourself down. So that may be possible.
I hope so, but maybe by the year 3000 we'll have autopilot.
maybe.
Back in the ancient days of airframe.
I'll tell you what. Just get someone to fly the damn ship for you. Just shove someone in there. I get to the point where I feel like I'm a goddamn bus driver in Star Citizen as a streamer. Like, hey, Vertigo, let's hang out. Let's get a bunch of people into the stream. Everybody just wants to pile into one ship and have me fly. And it's just like, I do this all the time. You fly the ship.
I need to make a whole new rank in my org of just pilots, and they're on call and be like, hey, listen, call you.
I love having bad pilots fly ships, especially when Calexis, when he's drunk, flies. It makes the stream so much more interesting because he just keeps, it's like pinball. He just keeps bouncing off everything. Just ping, 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 ping. Okay, are we gonna live through this, or should I just dive out the fucking?
I feel like I now from now on need the few to pilot anything I'm in, because the few doesn't fly. He falls with style. He leaves explosions everywhere he goes.
he flies by braille. Boom! Okay, we're there, everybody. We landed.
Activate the escape pods.
There is a there is a great. Go ahead.
I was going to say, here we've got a volunteer for you, Snake Eater, for a pilot right here on the captain's table.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sheep Citizen.
She'll
take over.
She'll fly
Cheap
for
you.
Take the wheel.
As long as it's not a screamer, you know what I mean?
Can't be worse than the fear. Can't be worse than the few.
Few.
Can't do it to the
I like how that's the meme now. Is that the few can't pilots like a stone in water.
Something.
it just
Speak of the
reminds
devil.
me of speak of the devil. There was this old TV show out in Seattle. There was this comedy group called Almost Live, and they did it was called Driving in Ballard. And Ballard is used to be this old geriatric neighborhood of Seattle. And one of the things was they did this bit on parallel parking in Ballard. It was basically driving by braille. There's just you back up until you hit the car behind you, then you pull forward until you hit the next car, then you back up a little bit. That's essentially how you park in Ballard.
And we've got a frozen HC. We can still hear him, but I love it when that happens. That's Discord.
That's fine.
That's what you liked.
We got a frozen sheep citizen too, so it's the theme.
She's just really still. She's just very, very still. She saw a wolf, so she's very still.
So what did I not like? I guess would be it's always sad to see a ship rework pushed. So the 325, which is one of the ships I have on loaner, I won't get to see a new version of that anytime soon. 3.5, I think, is when they pushed that too.
Yep.
And what surprised me, I guess it's sort of like the frame rates in Korea are like Overwatch smooth. It's just incredibly quick and fast and fluid. You'll get a hitch every once in a while, but generally speaking, because I had some, I tried some gameplay in Star Marine, and it's felt a little sloggy. Then going to Korea and just being able to like crisply move around corners, like pie off corners and ready up and run and ready up again, and it was good. It was fun, man. The OCS is legit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that it's still that smooth, even when you have like NPCs or like NPCs and people running around. Like I've had like
players and
15 players plus the 7 NPCs, and that at one point, and it's still like 60 FPS, just solid.
It still gets crippling frame rates though when you start seeing the entire server show up to Levski to look at all the ships that teaches ship shop.
Bound to happen.
Oh yeah, but that's
Levski's a shit show to begin with.
Yeah.
All right. So, did you say what surprised you?
Just the performance increase and the fact that I guess the thing I expected the least to change was FPS, because it's just it's a phase of the game or part of the game it's sensitive to it. You don't have these big backdrops to make up for some low frames. It's like you either can shoot your gun or you can't shoot your gun and you die. So it was really, really a pleasant surprise how smooth it all was. I was constantly commenting on how just I would have been fine with half the frame rate, but it's like legit, competitive FPS gameplay. You know what I mean?
And a lot of that's going to get better when they start doing some of the back end working for server meshing, which is like the back end OCS stuff, which I think is scheduled for 3.5. So we should start hearing more about it around March of next year. So that's
only getting better, baby.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I've always liked about the SC patches is people are like, whenever an SC patch comes out and people are like, oh, this is pretty good. The answer is always, it can't get worse than last time. You're always getting better. Sometimes some things may get dropped down, like the FPS may drop down but the performance will go up, and eventually it'll stabilize, and they'll constantly going up. Like I've never had a patch that felt like it was going backwards in development. At least there was always a step forward. Shut up, Vertigo. You're wrong.
Okay.
I mean, like
I was about to say 3-0.
3-0 felt
like that ESPN show where you can like mute people, like they get a little like
a little loose and just a little mute. Yeah,
like you get a 30-second timeout. It's captain's prerogative.
Madness. But no, I mean, like honestly, Vertigo, have you ever thought there's a patch? You really think 3.0 moved development backwards from 3.6?
Yes, it did. I feel 3.0 went backwards from 2.6. Instead of having we expected 2.6, 3.0 just to be a better 2.6. 2.6 basically the entirety of 2.6 with planetary landings. But the true statement is it was the patch that the game needed, not the patch we wanted. They needed to push that out because of their timetable and because of the way development was going. They had the obligation to put a patch, to put a live environment build out to us as founders, as backers of the game, for us to play. So they had that obligation. They had that timetable they had to fulfill to us as backers. So they had to put something out, and 3.0 was what happened. And 3.0 was just a kind of a sloppy mess to begin with. But they have made up for it, in my opinion, that they've been progressing throughout this entire year, make it better and better and better, better, better. So if we take 3.0 off the table, I would agree with you. But
I still think 3.0 isn't in the sense that it was progress because of what they added.
Overall, yes, progress for the overall game, progress for the overall product that is Star Citizen. In the long go, you're correct, absolutely correct.
Yeah,
Paul. But for those of us who are boots on the ground, and honestly, not a very healthy way to be in Star Citizen. If you are literally playing Star Citizen every day. For
months, years
for years at a time, you're probably doing it wrong, or you're a Star Citizen streamer. You're a Star Citizen streamer. Obsessing this much over Star Citizen will break you, and we've seen a lot of bitterness in the community. And we had some episodes. We'll get around to it. Oops, don't hit the mic. Sorry. Gesticulating.
You're taking over Texas Skulls this time. Texas.
I know, right? So. Anyways, I somewhat disagree with you there, Paul, but I kind of agree with you too at the same time. So there you go. 3.0, kind of salty about that still. And there's some other stuff we can be salty about when it gets to my turn.
Okay, we'll let you get salty on that then. Texas,
yes.
What did you like? What did you dislike? And what surprised you about this week?
Very first thing that I dislike is I think we need to kick Snake Eater off. His camera and microphone are putting us to shame. And making me mad. So if we can kick him off.
I'm sorry.
Or
I was going to plug in my old C90.
Can you reduce the quality to like 480p or something? I mean, that would be okay.
Pixelization. Can you put a sepia-tone filter on that for us?
Yeah. I mean,
is it
anything
bad
that you can do.
Going, man, I really could be a little...
Between Snake Eater's like entire setup and like an on screen, and then like the pure glitz and glam that Nerd Show and Tell has with his whole stream, like his full setup of like lights flashing and like I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't even conceive. I feel like I just started Twitch again. I'm just like, hey, I'm Astropub. You know,
need to be able to come in here and try to hang with you guys. Yeah, I got to bring something to the table. So.
So
wonderful camera setup.
Fantastic, yeah.
You're gonna get a private message later asking you all about it.
Texas will buy it. Texas will
need
buy
some
it.
Advice.
Yeah,
need some advices.
Talk about it, man.
I don't know, Texas. Whatever you were drinking over there looked good. What was that?
It's a coffee, and it's out. And so right after I'm done with my 3 questions, I'm gonna run downstairs and get a beer because I need it. What did I dislike? I disliked that 3.3 was released. And it's not because of the state of it, whether it's crashy or buttery smooth or this or that. I dislike it because that means I have a fuck ton of work now to do, and I'm so far behind. So I very much dislike. Fuck all you. I'm being selfish. I'm mad. 3.3 was released.
Through your prism, I can see why that.
Yes.
Yeah, I've gotten 1,000 Discord PMs and Reddit PMs and Twitter PMs and whatnot saying, "Hey man, when are you gonna update the app for 3.3?" Like,
first mate's down. It's not working.
It's so weird.
It is now. I fixed it. I fixed the bug. The bug has been fixed, but it's completely out of date.
The glitch.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So here's the weirdest thing. I was gonna say here's the weirdest thing is that I was on the relay station earlier today, and people kept asking, what is your opinion on 3.3? How much have you played of 3.3? And everyone was like, it released at like 10 o'clock Centrals, which was like 11 p.m. 11 p.m. What was it?
What
Eastern.
Time zone are you going for? Eastern. Okay.
Eastern, and then like balls ass early in the morning, European time. So pretty much the only people who've had a chance to play it all day are the Australians. None of us on the channel were Australians, so everyone's like, "How is it playing? How is it?" It's like, I don't know. Most people haven't even played like a couple hours of it at this point. So,
I mean, I hit it up last night. Like, I think I stayed up a little bit to like midnight to play a little bit of 3.3 live, and it's essentially it felt like 3.3 AF, like the P2 patch. It crashed a little, but you're still having 15 1500 sixes crashes, killing the server.
Yeah.
I got killed by some dude in an RSI gimp suit. I'm sorry, whoever did the art for that new flight suit. It looks like some sort of bondage gear. It's got straps all over it.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the original flight suit from back in like Arena Commander like hangar days.
Really? I have to go back and look at that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
remember what that looked like.
I think maybe an improvement over just straight up pajamas, but I do think it's needs.
What are you trying? You calling out Vertigo? You calling him out in his pajamas?
In his pajamas.
This is some cotton flannel,
if they
boy.
sold a flannel robe, then I think that would be an improvement too. But
Honestly, if they sold a flannel goddamn flight suit with a goddamn kilt to go with it, I would be. I'd be having that flutter.
So
basically,
it's got to be a kilt over the flight suit, though. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I don't think you want your junk just kind of hanging out in space. Might freeze off or something.
I have to get like one of those.
Only a true Scotsman would let his junk freeze off in space.
I would have to have one of those like a little flight suit for my member down there, like little helmets, little bubble
Hey,
helmet.
notice everyone. He said a little flight suit. He said
Damn it. If you could please refrain from saying things that require me to picture something in my mind. I have control over when you say little spacesuit friend.
My friend's out there with a little.
Shut off.
I could just see a little
Bubble
Venture helmet, like one of those little,
Oh,
the
God.
Venture helmet series of helmets. I could.
What was
imagine
that show again in ESPN where you can mute the guy? I think we need that button for HC Vertigo now.
Those plastic bag helmets they got at
Yeah.
at Hurston.
like that only for down, you know.
Just have to shave really good to get a good seal. Down
Oh
there.
Jesus Christ! Stop talking.
I would
Vertigo,
say
swear
that
to
those
God.
2.3
Wow.
live, if we can talk about that
Yeah,
instead,
go ahead.
has been good for me so far. The only bug I ran into was, I don't know if it's a 600i specific bug or just modding weapons in general, but if you used the drop down from when you haven't spawned a ship and use a drop down to select your ship to mod it, it crashed it for me. But
Yeah, because they changed that like at the last minute of the PTU. It
Yeah,
used to
but
work
there's-
fine, and then they're like, we now implemented the 3D ship viewer thing, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
true.
cool.
But there's a workaround. If you just sit in the chair of the ship and you know how you don't have to use the drop down to start modding once you're in the ship, then it's fine. But yeah, it's
Gotcha.
that was the only crash I experienced. Everything else was pretty smooth for me. But I know
Yeah.
it's kind of everybody's experience differs a bit.
My
So-
experience is pretty straightforward. I just don't play Star Citizen, so hey,
Oh yeah,
you don't have to run into bugs.
You just
The
work
best
for them
way
for
not to
free.
run into bugs is not to play the game.
It's much better.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's what you like, or what you disliked. Did you say
That is
you
what I
liked?
disliked. No. I like Snake Eater's camera though. It's a cool camera.
That's good.
It's a cool
Was there anything
game.
that surprised you this week?
Man, surprised me. I don't know. It's no, not really. I mean, I knew that the whole 3-4 thing was going to get butchered.
Mhm.
I actually, you know what? Yeah, sure. I'm surprised that they decided to continue rolling with development in the 3-3 branch instead of game dev. Just because I mean at this point, yes, I know we need to release something every quarter, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna further butcher 3.5 now and further just kind of delay everything, because the more changes and more shit that they do on the 3.3 dedicated branch, which will become the 3.4 branch, right? That's just the more work that they're gonna have to do to incorporate literally all that shit back into game dev. So honestly, I'm a little shocked that they decided that was the decision that they made, as opposed to just saying, look, we're gonna literally just not give you 3.4. Fuck, I would have preferred that over anything, because I feel like 3.5 is gonna get fucked.
On one hand, I agree with you. On the other hand, it's like I can see where they're coming from. Like they have so much stuff in the development build that touches so many aspects of Star Citizen.
Mhm.
And they said this. Xylo came out and said this on Spectrum the other day when we had the ship flight model come up.
Yeah.
He said there's just so much stuff in the flight model that they can't pull out in time. They just can't. They
No,
can't remove
no,
that
no,
stuff,
no,
and
no.
all that stuff is prototype. If they give
I
us,
get that.
Yeah,
I get that. I think you're misunderstanding me. What I'm saying is, all right, so I think you know the way that this works, but for anyone who is watching who doesn't, right, you have a branch of code, right? And this is their game dev. All of their major changes go into game dev, right? And then when they're ready to release something like 3.3 or ready to push it at least to PTU, they branch that code off into a dedicated branch, right? Mm-hmm. And as bug reports and whatnot come in from 3.3 specifically, they address those issues in the 3.3 branch.
It's like its own little, it's its own little box. The
it is,
and its own little box that they're fixing.
It is, but what that means is that when they're done with 3.3, right, and it's released alive and it's good, they need to now bring in and reincorporate all those changes back into the main game dev branch, right? And they say that that process is what takes, like 2 to 4 weeks or whatever, because it's a huge undertaking. You have to literally take all these fixes and put them back. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they do that every patch cycle. So, all right, they release 3.1, good. They bring the 3.1 code and fixes back into game dev, and they continue preparing for 3.2. What they're saying now this time, though, is instead of doing that process, they're going to continue working in their silo that is the 3.3 branch, right, mm-hmm. to get 3.4 out. They're going to bring a couple things over, like you said, not the flight model, not some of the bigger stuff, but they're going to bring some things over. And I think that's a bad fucking idea. I think that they should just bite the bullet, reincorporate all the 3.3 shit back into the game dev branch, and then you know what? If they're just not ready for 3.4 and if they're just not going to make it, honestly, fuck it. I'd say abandon 3.4 and just barrel forward towards 3.5. This is just going to create more overhead and extra work.
Where I was going is I was just trying to show you the balancing act that CIG is trying to do. And CIG, I think Chris Roberts has just pulled the trigger and says we're going to have quarterly patches no matter fucking what.
I know, and I don't
that's
like
what he's done. But like I said, I would have been happy, because as Xylo said in the thread yesterday, there's just so much with the dev branch, we are so close to the end of the year, to the end of the fourth quarter, when 3.4 comes up. They don't have enough time. They don't have enough time to do all this and that and this, and get branch off the main dev and make sure it's going to work properly. Their timetable's fucked. Their timetable is fucked because of CitizenCon, because of the extended PTU for 3.3. And I would agree with Texas Skulls here. Just say fuck it. We'll give you a couple ships from 3.4, and we're gonna have a really weak 3.4 build. See you next year, everybody. We'll see you in 3.5. I would be okay with that.
Skipping versions, though, is a slippery slope. I mean, you start to skip a patch with most of its content, and now all that pushes. And now, is that improving or reducing your chances of making your goals on the next patch? And I think, just kind of cutting pieces off is a more you're mitigating damage. If the damage is coming from timelines, you try to mitigate it in any way you can, as opposed to just saying, hey, reset the clock and move on, because that's kind of what got them initially, as I understand it. It's kind of what got them into trouble early on in dev, is they didn't have anybody cracking whips. They didn't have any accountability on timelines, and you definitely need to give developers, especially of an ambitious game, some slack. In they don't meet a couple goals. All right, don't crucify them. They are doing their best, but I think trying to get as much as they can out the door as often as they can shouldn't be a paradigm that they shift from quarter to quarter. I think that's the idea. They're trying to keep that hard
keep
driving
the culture. Keep that
idea.
culture.
Yeah.
Keep the culture to be quarter to quarter rather than yearly, because up to now it's been really a yearly culture where they've been we don't really have to think about that. Well, it'll come out. So and I would say that I agree with Texas, but I understand why. And in fact, I would go so far as to say 3.3.5 is 4. 3.4, and then just push 4, and then push everything from 4 over to 3.5, and just kind of shift that direction. But I think
quarterly,
they also intentionally made 3.5 and 3.6 light, because if you look at them, they're fairly light in terms of really hard hitting ships. We know they can do it. Armor, weapons, clothing. They've done
hard
that.
Assets,
it's not hard
assets. Assets are kind of on their own path anyways. Assets barrel forward even when tech isn't necessarily ready.
They could shove them into a hot fix, half the time, those assets. So
yeah, but that's the problem. Quarterly releases adds an overhead to their game development, because again, they need to reincorporate all those changes from each quarter's patch, right? It adds overhead, and at this point, they're already almost a month and a half behind on their quarter 3 patch, right?
Oh yeah.
So my point was, I get it. You want to stick to quarterly patches, and I guess I like the paradigm. I would personally go with twice a year patches, but okay, whatever. I get it, but because they're so far delayed, and because of the extra overhead that choosing this this path is going to add, which is going to delay 3.5. I think they just needed to bite the bullet. I think that they need to make the tough decision and say, we're just abandoning a 3.4 or a quarter 4 2018 patch. That was what I thought they should have done.
And I think they're going to learn from this, because I think they've learned what a lot of us kind of knew already, which is trying to do development at the same time as a major convention. Probably not an easy thing, nor will it really. It'll probably impact development a little bit more. So maybe we do 3 patches a year instead of 4 patches a year for them, which would.
I can't. That's too weird for me. Dividing by 3. No, it has to be
trimester. You have trimesters.
You could call it the Gaben method. So because he's afraid of 3s, you know. So
I think the meta of the development is part of it too. I mean, as you see in the sort of the ship pipeline, if they put out a Valkyrie in whatever it was 90 days from concept to flight ready, you're starting to see parts of the pipeline get locked off, or get it to a point where they can really start pumping out their output real quickly. And I think that ability to evaluate where you are on a quarterly basis is also important. Maybe it does in the larger timeline monkey around with it a little bit, but having the ability to every 90 days have the devs take a look at themselves and be like, okay, so here's where we are in our ability to hit our targets. What are the things that do a little AAR on it, and what are the things that we can that we've done well, continue to do that? What are the things that we need to improve from a ability to make our targets standpoint, aside from just clearly making the game full time, which is their full time job, but having that continuous measuring stick, that regular measuring stick to be able to do that, I think is also maybe part of it. I don't know, but
no, I agree. I think it's also part of just how you build a team. And anyone who's ever worked in any kind of team environment. Hello? What? What's a hello? What's that?
We lost your camera feed for a second during the stream. We had a glitch. It was a glitch.
It was a glitch? Okay. Hopefully it works. Yeah, hopefully we're still good, because I'm still seeing
the system.
Yeah.
It's momentary.
No, it's probably because I'm going through they're doing the double stream thing. So
okay.
So far it's good.
All right.
Let's see. Let me make sure I'm setting everything right as well.
Was that was what you was surprised?
Getting a beer.
Yeah,
he's getting a beer. He's done.
I'll be back.
Okay. And next is HC Vertigo. What did you like? Would you dislike? And what surprised you?
I like that CIG's holding to their quarter release schedule. Even if 3.4 is going to be kind of watered down, CIG, I appreciate the desire to push out content at a regular pace. Coming off last year or even the years before, even as a content creator, like it's nice to have something ahead of you, even if it's just a little something, like a new ship, a new station, a new gameplay loop, something to hold on to, even if it's just updating the game, making it slightly better. So I do appreciate that CIG is doing that. What surprised me, and again, which made me kind of salty, was that we're not getting, because of the way they're developing 3.4, they're not coming off game dev, which means we're not getting the new flight model, new combat flight model, and that really kind of made me super salty, because I kind of want to I want to have the pews. I want to be able to fly my starships, because most of my hangars combat ships, Warlock, Gladius, Super Hornet. I got a Hawk in there that's going to come out. Looks like the Hawk's going to make it for 3.4, but it's going to have the old flight model. So we'll see how that works.
I'm trying to think about think of that.
I think what's a little bit strange too is like 3.3.5 is actually a pretty monster drop of a half patch. I mean, it's got entire new biome, an entire new planet, new moons,
4
biome,
moons, brand
AI
new moon,
missions, combat missions, new AI mechanics.
cities.
It's got a home city, landing zone, all that stuff. So if you pushed that one off of 3.3.5 and over to 3.4, 3.4 probably wouldn't feel quite as light, even with the new changes getting pushed to 3.5. But so it's a little bit of a weird cadence, I think, in this particular patch, because 3.5 is kind of a patch in and of itself.
Oh, it definitely is, and I'm excited for 335. Period. I mean, I think it's going to be cool to open that up. I'm also, again, damn, I have dog hair all over me now. This is the problem.
Don't worry,
I'm-
the poor quality of your camera is hiding it.
Right. Thanks. If only I had a real camera. I'm terrified of 335 though, because literally that means that I'm gonna have to do so much work for the app. Why did I ever choose to do this?
That's a
Why
good
did I
point.
choose
Why
to
did you?
build an app?
Whoever
It's
forced
just
you
torture.
into doing that, you should really have a talk with that person. Because
I know, right? Well, so like what I'm doing, what I've been doing behind the scenes for the last like 3 weeks now is completely rebuilding and refactoring the entirety of the app. A new framework, new literally everything. And one of the drivers behind that is because I'm now pulling data directly from the game to help with these things. So like when 335 launches, I can just press button and instantly have all the new locations, all the new commodities, all the new mineable shit, all the new, everything, just literally everything. And unfortunately, I'm just a slow piece of shit. And so I'm not ready for 335.
so
Trying to make my
the
life
story is, if you like a game and you would like to hate the game instead, take on
exactly.
a huge project linked to the development of that game.
Exactly.
Oh, you mean like Galactic Historian, my lore series, which takes me hours upon hours of my time looking through CIG's records, only for them to change, like by adding an additional ship or change one sentence in a paragraph that completely changed the whole lore. Yeah, I have no idea what Sex of Skulls feels like. You know?
I know,
Yeah.
it's just like I want to do tutorial videos, and they're like, oh, 3.0 is just right around the corner. Vertigo, like, don't worry, everything's going to change when 3.0. Just don't bother with the tutorials. We'll wait for 3.0 to come out and we'll do a tutorial.
Yeah.
Oh God, and it's like, oh, 3.4 is just right around the corner. Vertigo, the new flight model is just like we're going to have the flight model for another 6 months.
Yep.
Might as well just do.
You know what's funny though?
tutorial.
So digging through all of the game data, you see a lot of typos, Paul, for all the lore and like the text and localization that they do. Also bugs, like when the Valkyrie used to not be able to fly forward very well, right? Because it didn't have the proper thrusters. Yeah, I saw that shit way back when. I'm gonna start selling bug fixes to CIG. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be like, hey, I was combing through the data. I saw that you've got a bug with this ship. I'll tell you how to fix it for a Javelin. It's pixels to them, just a couple, mouse clicks.
Start a
I know,
whole
right?
new like subgenre of like contracting, like
Yeah,
bounty
right.
hunting, bug bounty hunting.
Yep. But no, I mean, it's so true. If you want to like ruin a game for yourself, do something that's third party to that game, and you will ruin it for
any
yourself.
kind of creation outside of the game for the game community or whatever is going to ruin your interaction. It's like the idea of if you ever want to have a terrible movie experience with a great movie, watch a movie with someone who makes movies. Like a camera operator or a director. Because they'll just sit there and talk about, there's a plot hole there. There's something in the background. There's the boom mic.
Yeah.
There's the boom mic. No one sees it except for that one guy. It's like, thanks.
Well, it's kind of the same thing with looking at CIG.
This game is over ambition squared.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's kind of the same thing though for CIG, right? I mean, think about it. These people work on the game 24/7. I mean,
a lot of them were fans. A lot of them were fans, and that got into
hours.
Yeah.
And the last thing that you want to do after you spend, a 12-hour rush day trying to get 3.3 out the door is go home and play 3.3, right? You just want to not think Star Citizen. So that's also the worst way to ruin something for yourself, is go work for the company that produces it.
Yep. Anywho, so Vertigo, that was what you liked and
Surprised me.
surprised.
What did I dislike?
Oh, here we go. Does anyone have any popcorn? It's gonna be here for a bit.
I know we're gonna be here for a little
I need
bit.
the salt from his for his popcorn.
To help with your popcorn.
Yeah.
Like this whole 3.3, like I kind of expected it to be a little bit like 3.0, where it was going to be like a very long, protracted period because of the big piece of technology. But holy crap, we are infringing upon the release of 3.4 to the point where it's like, what's the point now? Why not just, like Texas School says, why not just shove 3.3.5 into a 3.4 and say, see you next year, everybody? It feels like they could there's more they could do. Honestly, I really recommend CIG does that. Just take 3.3.5, relabel it 3.4, and just say, we'll see you next year, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll just branch off the game dev build. There's no point in patching 3.3.5, 3.3 into a 3.4. It seems like just a bunch of wasted effort.
Yeah.
Just
like got less than a month and a half left. Because remember,
exactly.
they all go on holiday for 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, with holiday life, the holiday season, like you lose most of your employees to vacations during that day.
And you know what happens in the very beginning of January for like 2 or 3 weeks? Meeting fucking hell.
Oh yeah, everybody has to get
all together.
Yep.
Everybody has
to get after the holiday. Yeah.
I think they've actually potentially set themselves up for success because 3.3.5 is a monstrous content dump. I mean, it is all completely new ways to explore the game and come up with content on our own, and then more missions and a whole new biomes. The planet itself, just to fly around, is much bigger than any of the other planets we've flown around. So I think because it's already stable enough for a demo at CitizenCon, they polish it for a half patch in between 3.3 and 3.4. They can probably lock off 3.3.5 in a stable way before the holidays, and that will give most of us a ton to do over the holiday season. 3.4 again, it'll sling some new ships at us. We're always happy about that, and you've got this awesome Hurston to continue to explore over the holiday in a stable.
It's not just Hurston. Like Hurston and its 4 moons is such a significant expansion of play space to the point where I think like it's going to be almost impossible to get involved in PvP if they don't increase the number of players per server.
Yeah,
like 50 people.
The reason why they have to, like 3.5, for instance, they've got some of the first implementations of being able to increase player count, and that's one of their major goals of early next year. So I don't think you're going to really have PvP unless you have some way of inducing PvP, like a mission, like Korea, like a place where
point of interest.
A point of interest.
Well, there will be. I think there's going to be new AI missions on the ground, which will give us new opportunities to play King of the Hill, essentially, at these sites where you are continually worried about respawning AI while trying to maintain the spot. We'll be able to use the assets like the Valkyrie for the first time. You can't really do an assault on Korea the way that you can on a ground target with a dropship. So I think there'll be a lot of stuff that we can do. Lots of new biomes, lots of new. Who knows? Maybe they've hidden thing. I hope they have like a half a dozen new AI combat missions, but we'll see. I do think though that they'll have a good amount of stuff for us to do before the holidays.
I think the AI missions will be very localized. Like Korea, they'll have AI hanging around the outposts, but they won't be programmed to go much further than a certain radius around the outpost.
But they'll have missions that involve like collect this box, but guess what? There's a fucking army of AI waiting for you to do that. So I
don't think we're going to get anything close to what we saw in the SitCon demo, just because that is a highly tailered,
that was a custom mission.
It was a custom mission,
pre-scripted mission. Exactly. We're not going to. We'll get that stuff soon. I mean, or eventually
on that site. I don't think we're all that scripted. I think the mission itself, maybe doing some of those, and that was obviously the hairiest part of the whole gameplay demo. It wasn't Hurston walking around and taking train. It wasn't the AI combat. It was just dealing with mission mechanics.
And that's pretty obvious that they're using stuff that they're planning or they're already using to create new missions in the future for that. And they even said that this is kind of like what they want the Star Citizen experience to be in 2019.
I have an idea though.
3.5 kind of thing.
Well, yeah. I have an idea though on how we can kind of induce PvP. I mean, it sounds like you're worried about that, especially you, Vertigo, right? I'm just gonna initiate a call to arms to the Twitch community to stream snipe HC Vertigo. If you here are in Twitch wants to get some PvP action, I suggest that you watch HC Vertigo's channel, you find him in game, and you kill him.
Yes,
I mean, you probably go one further, Tex. You probably come up with some kind of API or something, right, to post wherever.
Where is HC Vertigo?
Yes.
Every time servers tweet it.
All right, I'm ditching Versemate. It's now
purely
a pirate app.
You just add the you add that to the app where it's just
that's the app. It's just
it tracks all of the information of all of the drag all the information of all of the streamers that are streaming on Twitch and YouTube and Mixer, and then post all of their positions on a map. So people
XYZ
can find it.
coordinates.
Yeah.
and to get around the issue with, you have to be friends with someone to join their server, right? We can have sort of we can have plants, right? Like people can report, hey, by the way, I happened to get into a server with HC Vertigo.
Yeah.
And then they can put out a ping, and then you can accept that ping. Y'all put each other on your friends list, and then you can join the server and kill HC Vertigo. I'm gonna make so much fake money with this. It's gonna be great.
So many UECs.
Yes, all the UECs.
Yes.
Anyways, that was everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I will.
Nearly as salty as I expected it to be. We worked out most of the salt last night.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Vertigo.
I will say this. There's some people in there being like, oh, 3.5 is going to get it's not going to make it, and it's going to get bloated. And it's like, there's a lot of things you got to remember. Ships and like armor and weapons and all that stuff is autopilot for CIG. It's not that they don't do work, and it's not that it's difficult. It's not that it's not
They
difficult.
do a good job making that stuff, but that stuff is very rote. They've been doing that, like the gaming industry's figured out how to make that stuff pretty well.
Yeah, and CIG has a system that works. And so,
Yes.
like, when they say they have 12 ships, the most I would expect to get cut is maybe 1 or 2, and it's probably the ship, I'd have to look at the list, but it'd probably be the ship that is the biggest or the one that's furthest away from what we'd normally expect.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to say, it wasn't this week, but I had to say what I was most surprised about, like dating back to CitizenCon. One of the things that put my jaw on the ground was that it only took them 90 days to get the Valkyrie from concept to flight ready. I mean,
He keeps bringing that up, and it's just like I keep thinking about the Redeemer. Like, what's happening with the Redeemer?
Well, I don't know what's behind the scenes on some of these other ships, and maybe
Exactly.
they are flight ready. I don't know, but the point is that they've obviously streamlined at least up to a certain size. I'm sure it gets exponentially more difficult the bigger the ship gets. It's not like linear. It's like you double the size of the Valkyrie, and now you've like tripled or quadrupled the size of the dev time. But still, it's encouraging that if it's, not a massive capital ship or something like that, that they can pump out assets like that, and armor and weapons are probably at that point too, real quick. I mean, that's a lot of stuff that we like to mess around with in game. I get it. On the core.
I think what people miss often is that, listen, their ship pipeline is driven by Squadron 42. Is ship being used in Squadron 42? Priority.
There's
If not,
two.
backseat.
There's 2.
For the most part.
It's Squadron 42 and common usage. Because
Sure.
if something like the Aurora or the Mustang or even like the 300 are more and the Avenger. If you remember, the Avenger had its update recently too. All of those, some of them are in Squadron 42, but all of those are also some of the most popular ships in game. Almost everybody.
Yeah, so it's not so much
Everybody has
common usage, but ownership, right?
Yeah,
Like if
ownership.
you look at it, overwhelmingly
Yeah.
the community owns Hornets, Avengers, and Auroras, and Mustangs, right? And 300s. Those 5 ships right there is probably like 95%.
Yeah. So it makes sense for them to push those kind of things out. And
Sure.
as we're talking about this, someone mentions, it's ironic because they pushed the 300 series rework back. However, the 300 series was originally in 3.5 when it was first announced. It was E3, 3.5, and 3.6 before they did the jumble up again after in August when they did the big one, the big jumble. So yes, it did get pushed, but it was already on the cusp between 3.5 and 3.4, and they pushed it forward to 3.4 because they thought they had enough time to work on it. So they're fairly good at that, and there's still going to be some stuff that slips, but the assets like ships and weapons and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't be as concerned about those slipping. And if they get them done between patches, sometimes like the F-55 light machine gun, that was done between 3.1 and 3.2, and they just slipped it into a
that just showed up.
Yeah,
that just showed up in hotfix. I'm like, where the hell did this gun come from?
So a lot of times they'll just show up in hotfixes too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like they also said on ATV, right? Assets are something that are exceptionally easier to pull over into a hotfix or patch specific branch, right? Because it doesn't really intermingle with other things. It's almost it's a standalone asset for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Something like a flight model literally just fucks everything. So it's
it touches everything in Star Citizen, because Star Citizen right now is a lot about starships. So if you pull another starship in from the dev
you call them
branch,
spaceships here.
Starships over here. Where I'm from, we call them starships.
Where you're from is wrong, because where you're from, they wear flannel and listen to
grunge, wrong music,
grunge
noise,
rock. Yeah,
just noise.
Laser buggies. So if you would
we call them space thingamajiggers. They go up in space and do the things, and then they come back down. I'm running for governor.
And sometimes, if the few is piloting, they come back down very hard.
Yes,
but hey,
quickly.
The Fuse got the Tennessee insurance policy on his ships. If it rips, unravels, or tears, we'll let you keep both pieces. It's
Anyways, my point is, and someone else had mentioned in chat, even like, aren't they working on a planet pipeline, or don't they have a planet pipeline? They made the moons of Hurston in a week.
Yeah.
They went from planning to done in a week. They may have taken them a little bit longer than that, but in terms of like, it seems like they were a lot faster than they did with 3.0 when they made the moons.
Yeah,
sure.
So
that type of stuff is like shows to me that of the there's lots of different branches of the development pipeline, but when they're starting to lock off the processes and be able to come up with content that quickly, I mean, that's a super encouraging sign, because maybe some pipelines are inherently more difficult, or some are still being worked because core technology isn't done, but it's still really encouraging. That means that the stuff that you see all the time, at the very least, is stuff they can put out like pretty quick.
And we know that they wanted to do these tools for planets and moons and stuff like that, so that all they have to do is take a couple of days and punch out a new planet pretty quickly. And that's part of what this city procedural generation stuff is as well, is so that they can like, hey, we need to make Terra. Click. Okay, there's the skyline. Let's pop this big building here. Let's go through and kind of smooth everything out here, so we don't have to worry about it.
Make no mistake.
And it's done for version 1.
Make no mistake, though, the actual landing zone process
gonna be custom.
Is still a complex, time-consuming beast.
Yeah.
But to fire up a moon or a planet with really nothing on it besides what's procedurally generated. Remember, the cities that are procedurally generated, you can't go in them, you can't explore them, right? And even if you could, it's all still kind of barrenish, right?
Yeah.
Right.
To make something like Loreville takes a long fucking time.
It does.
It's going to take a while.
The amount of content that will be injected into the PTU. I mean, I know it feels a little anemic for some people. Not PTU, the PU. But if you watch the vertical slices, you watch the trailers, the amount of content that exists in Squadron 42 that will then be injected into the PU is, I mean, multiple systems worth of content, multiple environments for both ground and space-based experiences. I mean, all the ship assets, all this stuff is going to be, it will, triple, quadruple, quintuple the size of the game as we see it now in terms of the PU, once they're able to pull all those assets into the PU. So it may seem a little bit anemic now, but they have a lot of that stuff ready to flip the switch.
If not ready, then building right now. So like when Squadron 42 comes out, we'll get things like the Coil and Orion. Is that Orion? No, I'm trying to think of the name of the system that the Coil's in.
Odin.
Odin. Thank you. So we've got the Odin system.
Loremaster _CIG.
Exactly. I knew it was O because there was OMC, and O stands for the name of it. And I always get it confused with Orion. But Orion's the Vanduul system, Odin. Mm-hmm. So we have Odin, and then we've got Nyx, because we've got Nyx
Delamar.
is basic. It's Delamar. That's all that Nyx is. The rest of it is just barren planets and moons.
Asteroids,
asteroids.
Delamar.
So there's plenty of like things that feel like CIG is close enough that when they release Squadron 42, they're just like, hey kids, here you go. And it'll be an easier to just put in. Now, not easy. We're still talking like a patch cycle where they have to work out all the kinks and bugs, because what works for Squadron 42 doesn't work for Star Citizen. You don't want to have like the Stanton hanging out on the mining platform, while you're in the PU, because that may cause problems. So
I think there's a lot of integration, though. I think those tools that they're developing are
back and forth.
Yeah, so that they can pretty quickly integrate all the terrific work they've done on Squadron 42. Instantly add all that value back into the PU.
And think about it again. What was the blocker for all of this stuff? What was the blocker for expanding the system that we have
OCS.
to play? Or the systems, OCS, exactly. And so with that in play, hell, if CIG wanted to, and there'd probably be not much of a point in doing so, but they could just fake jump points, just literally throw in a loading screen for right now, right? And say, all right, now all of a sudden you're in fucking Nyx. Now you're in Odin, right? And then have a fully built system. There might not be anything there. It might not be custom. You might not have a Loreville on any of these places, but they could do that, right? I mean, OCS was the blocker. OCS is there now. So.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the questions. For those of you guys who have no idea what we do, this is the end of our kind of discussion section. Now we're going to take questions from the audience. There are a couple caveats. One, none of us are CIG developers, but we have no problem pretending to be CIG developers and giving you absolutely official answers. You can then go tag, Disco Lando and Captain Xylo and Captain
Xylo.
Captain Xylo. That was his original nickname. Now he's just Xylo.
Yep.
Bringing you back.
Back in time.
Back in time. Xylo, Disco, Ulf, Chris Roberts, all of them. Make sure you tag all of them in your official announcements that you heard that, Space Cocaine is confirmed by CIG _ Texas Skulls. And, Space Flannel Kilts are confirmed by CIG, or HC Vertigo _ CIG.
And genital formal wear.
And genital formal wear.
Coming to Star Citizen.
And of course,
and top hat
is back, baby.
And of course, Edible Snakes is confirmed by Snake Eater _ CIG.
What about just space snakes?
Snakes on a spaceship.
Snakes on a spaceship. There
Snakes
you
on a
go.
spaceship.
That's our first live action Star Citizen movie that we're gonna make. Snakes on a spaceship.
I've always felt like there's whenever in Metal Gear Solid 3, I think was Snake Eater. I always felt like that they missed the opportunity to market that like a Bond movie, because it always seems like a Bond movie title, Snake Eater, So
Agree.
No, I don't know. Actually,
on a
no idea what you're talking about.
yeah.
The other day you feast
That's the
on a
classics.
snake. Snake Eater. You've done it, Paul.
Yep.
You've triggered
I've done
the
it.
song.
The bad singing, yes. Quickly
Not
donate
cool.
for him to stop. Donate to Stack Up to have him stop.
I take
on the
bits,
forum.
not
Admit it.
shits. Okay, on my channel.
The other thing is there are such things as stupid questions. Don't ask them. If you do, you'll be ridiculed by all of us.
Yes.
Also, stop
We have
asking.
really felt it.
Stop asking statements. Stop asking statements here. Stop asking official statements. If you want to make a statement, get a camera, get a OBS, and make yourself a streamer, or make a YouTube video. Then
YouTube video.
Then you can
I
make
have a
statements.
question. Star Citizen is never going to be released.
Exactly. I've heard so many people who give me a
Not
life
grammatically
story
question.
and then ask. Yeah. I've got some people who make give me a life story, and then at the very end they ask a question, but they've basically made their statement in this question. It's like, I am a professional spaceship designer by day, and I think every single one of these spaceships is totally wrong because the thrust to mass ratio is completely whack, and they have no idea what they're doing. That being said, our Apple's going to be in the PU.
I love the internet. So good. It's just
Anyways, and last, of course, is you can ask them to individual cast members. You can ask us to all of us. And I also reserve the right to not ask a question, because there are some questions that are just so stupid they break TOS. So please don't ask those questions.
Yeah,
They've not been as bad recently, but I've had them, a lot of them in the past, where people are just attacking, CIG members or using racist or homophobic language in their question. It's like, I can't say that, buddy. I don't care if you had a point or not. You just had to throw that word in, and I can't say it now.
Deletes question.
Yeah. So first question comes from FC Fastcart, who asks, if Paul's a teacher by day and a bartender by night, when does he find the time to fight crime? I don't sleep because justice never sleeps. That's a joke, is that my middle name is Batman because it's Paul B. Shelley. So, yeah. Next question comes from FC, who asks, I blew my anniversary sale money on PAX East tickets. Which state offers the best deal on blood or organ donations? I don't know. I'd have to. Do you guys have any idea of?
I don't think you should
Blew all your money on CitizenCon tickets.
On PAX East tickets.
Black
PAX
market's
East ticket.
probably your best bet, buddy.
Back with Black Market.
If you wanna, if you want to do the
Scalp
organ
them.
thing, you're gonna have to leave the states. I know a guy. Just send me a PM, and we'll get you hooked up, man.
Clipped.
Next question comes from Fastcart, who asks, Snake Eater, you have a great voice. Ever consider doing radio or DJ work? I know a guy. That's what he says.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. I have considered it in the past. Actually, when I had a brief stint as being, learning how to do filmmaking and acting and stuff in Hollywood, I did some voiceover instruction, or like took some voiceover instruction, and it's a lot more difficult and specific than people realize. Doing voiceover, for example, for advertising and stuff, it's not like just talking in your normal cadence about a thing like broadcasting on Twitch is. It's like you have to say stuff in weird ways at a certain exact timing, and you have to deal with clients that have these ridiculous demands to that are impossible to meet and stuff. It's an interesting idea, but I think Twitch and YouTube have become an awesome way for me to explore that broadcasting and content creation desire without necessarily having to navigate the challenging waters of mainstream radio or television or that type of thing. But I appreciate the compliment, and certainly open to ideas. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you know a guy and he says I can get you in tomorrow, DM me, brother. But thank you for the kind words, man.
Yeah. I do know that.
Sorry to go off topic. Yes, I read your joke. Can we ban Vertigo from the chat, please?
Oh God. So, Fastcart is also a part of the Base Radio, which is a radio team that does Star Citizen content 24/7 on Twitch, and they have their own internet radio as well. So he may have been referring to that, though he may actually know people. Knowing Fastcart,
Yeah. Well, either way, yeah, that's a good. I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to talk about participating in that stuff. All things Star Citizen, man. I'm in game.
All right. Next question comes from Joan of Arcturus, I guess. Joan of Arcturus.
Joan of ArcCorp.
ArcCorp, yeah. Who asks, with the new flight model, how many people do you think will crater into planets when trying to land?
Many.
The answer is not just the few. Many.
The mini.
The many.
Oh.
I feel really bad harping on the few all this time because he's really not that bad of a pilot, but we just like to everyone got to get notes for one thing.
Ration of shit for some reason.
Everyone will die. That's what will happen.
You have a combination of people that don't already have a background in flying airplanes, coupled with being conditioned to fly ships the way they have up until now.
Oh my God! When they change the flight model, it's gonna be there's gonna be much more wrecks all over the place.
I'll have you know, I played Kerbal Space Program for many hours, so I'm a fucking expert. Thank you.
Well, I mean, even Kerbal Space Program is not going to prepare you for this flight model, because when I was tried it at CitizenCon, I don't know if you played it down there, Texas, but
I was way too drunk.
You were way too drunk. But when they had the flight model in there, it's kind of like Kerbal. You have to kill your relative velocity in order to move, but it took me a while to figure out what I was doing, and once I figured out what I was doing, it took me about maybe 3 or 4 minutes to figure it out because I was also fighting against controls. And I accidentally hit a button, and I realized that button was to make me go from go straight and never stop mode to stop and turn around mode. To like more of the finer controls. I was like, oh, so it was a complete error on my part.
But it is not like a flight simulator, is what you're saying. It doesn't feel like if you were in a flight simulator.
Oh, this was in space, so we didn't know if we were in if we were on the ground. So I don't know if that was ready or not. But I have a feeling that it's going to be more like a light sim, something more like Arma, in terms of how it functions. I wouldn't expect it to be like dead on 1-to-1 flight sim, but I do expect it to be more complicated than less complicated than DCS, more complicated than Battlefield. You know?
I'm concerned with like if they don't go full realistic flight sim, which is I'm hoping they will do at least with the winged ships. I'm concerned that when you do that in a game, when it doesn't feel like an actual flight sim, it becomes arcade feeling, like arcadey, you know. And I'm hoping that isn't the direction they go. I know they are serious guys when it comes to like details and science and physics. So
yeah,
I'm hoping there's a lot of that in there.
I mean I call it I've nicknamed it in myself the Flippin' Bird flight model because it feels a lot more like something like the Expanse you'd see in the Expanse, where like your relative velocity is important, but you also have to kill that relative velocity if you need to stop. So learning how to manage your velocity through in fights and dogfights is probably more important than getting your guns on target, because that's going to be the part that you need to, you know, continue to pay attention to. How you're flying is more important than just shooting, which is a nice change. So I'm assuming they're going to do something very similar to with the atmospheric, but I don't know yet. So because they only have the space flight model,
and
I'm super pessimistic, dude. So pessimistic.
Yeah, I know. I have to have it before I weigh in on it. Everyone's been asking, what do you think about the flight model Vertigo? It's like I haven't played with it long. I haven't even played with it. I don't think anyone's played with it long enough to really. No. And there's no reason to believe that CIG will keep it exactly.
No, it's going to change
for sure. It'll get tweaked. My hope is that it adds a layer of identity or character to fighting in ships, because if you know the way I always describe it is, let's say you're fighting in space, but ships that are designed to fight in space more than they are designed to fight in atmosphere will have a different character out there, maybe an advantage. But if let's say you're in a ship flying by a planetary body and you get interdicted and you want to either run or improve your odds of fighting, maybe you then dive for the atmosphere and you try to get him into your playground, and then once you're in that playground, now you've got a maneuvering advantage and an energy management advantage because you're in atmosphere and he's designed to be 6 degrees in space. And so I'm hoping that level of like, you know, changing the battlefield will add more character to the way that you fight in ships, as opposed to purely space dogfighting. And then when you go down to a planet, it's still space dogfighting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the major concern that I have is that, yes, I want ships to feel different in atmosphere. I really do. But this isn't 2018. This isn't 2050. This is 2948, and we've got what's supposed to be IFCS that is supposed to adjust for things, right? You know, they say, oh, well, you know, you're going to have wings, so you're going to have extra lift, which is going to continually, you know, force you up, or this or that, right? Or not have wings, and you're just going to want to drop. I'm like, yes, but we have IFCS. So I want ships to have different characteristics, but I'm afraid that they're going to take it too far to where, like, if you don't have an aerodynamic flight model to your ship, that you're just going to really suck. And it's like, but this isn't 2018. Like we have powerful thruster. I'm afraid that they're going to take it too far.
That way,
that's my fear.
They may end up doing something like the VTOL. They've talked about sort of, you might be able to VTOL if you don't have VTOL thrusters, but you'll only be able to do it for a short period of time. You may be able to dogfight in atmosphere, and you may even be able to get it to perform the way you want it to, but you may start burning fuel. Like, you know, your loiter time may go down to almost nothing. So those are the types of things I think, aside from a physics-based flight model, they could add to ship identity and have it change depending on the environment you're in, so that there'll be this more of a chess match between all the different ships, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
and that's what I want. I want characteristics to really come through more when I'm in atmosphere, right? Or not necessarily more, but in a different way. Sure, I've got an aerodynamic flight model. I'm in the Gladius, right, which is a great ship that is probably what the most planey type of ship that we have. Yeah, I want it to excel in the atmosphere to some degree, But no, you're again, 2948 doesn't change physics, but it changes the technologies that we have to combat physics, such as better thrusters, right? I mean, right now the best that we have is some fucking rotor blades or maybe the carrier vertical. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the best we have. But when we've literally got 12 thrusters that are all gimbaled that can point down and keep us up in the air, like, yes, I want them to have to work for it. I'm just, again, afraid that they're going to take it too far. That I think any ship that's not aerodynamic, you're going to feel like a fucking brick in the air.
I think it will start out as being taken too far, and I think they'll tear it back depending on what's going on.
I'm not really concerned about atmospheric flight model just yet. We don't have a lot of reasons to dogfight in atmosphere, fuel. We'll see how it works out. I'm more worried about the space combat game being like nothing but jousting.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to like the 2.5, back when we had cruise mode, people would cruise joust all the time, and the shield recharge, the shields were just so good that even a Vanguard would fly at you, unload as much as they could, lower your shields, and then fly past you, and your shields would regenerate by the time they made another pass, and it was just it was pointless. And right now, like the problem with the flight model right now is you have to be really skilled and really good, or have a good control scheme and real familiar with your controls and have a lot of practice to be effective in the current combat flight model. I have to make that distinction between the combat flight model and just the generic flight model. If you just want to go somewhere and land your ship on a fucking planet, it's great. It feels good. Mm-hmm. Like Star Citizen excels at just, cruising around, exploring, taking screenshots, gameplay videos. But if you actually want to dig in and actually get good at the combat flight model, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a good control setup. There are people out there who excel with mouse and keyboard. But right now, I tried, fighting a Hornet and a Buccaneer, and honestly, the only thing I felt about the Buccaneer was that I blacked out faster in the Buccaneer. But it felt the Hornet could easily pitch yaw and roll to keep up with me, to get their guns on target, and it felt like I just blacked out faster because my arcs around the Hornet were much larger, and I had to accelerate faster to get into the Hornet's blind spot, or I had to get closer to the Hornet, which again made me a bigger target, which worked against me. So CIG has to figure out some way to give the lighter ships an advantage, which means you have to nerf rotation rates in some axes to give ships character. But when you start nerfing ships, start nerfing that kind of stuff, the ability to ships to maneuver, you start making larger, slower ships that have more guns on the front of them more powerful because you can't get out of the way easier. So stuff like the Vanguard that can take hits, but could also dish out the hits, start becoming more popular in that kind of flight model. And this is just me theory crafting up here. We can do this all day.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be a constant
it's a struggle.
I mean,
this is not the first time CIG has touched the flight model. It will not be the last time.
And the thing I have faith in is they really try as best as they can to stick with science-based monkeying with the model as long as they can, and then they go into, does it feel good? Is the meta balanced, etc. And I think that's a good approach. Start with as much science as possible, and then you move on from there.
I think their current physics guy, the guy who replaced John Pritchett, has a master's in physics. Mm-hmm. He may have masters because he was like just a gameplay programmer they hired, and they found out he had physics, and they were just like, "Congratulations, you're going to the flight model team."
Yeah, I remember watching a panel, and I'm like, oh my God, these guys are diving deep on this side. I can't even hang it. I don't know what you're talking about, but I love it. I don't know any of that stuff that you're talking about.
And we talked about this on my last broadcast, where I threw out the very unpopular opinion that if when push comes to shove, we have this whole debate between interactive mode, mouse and keyboard versus joystick versus controller, and these various ships that need to be balanced between each other. Like this ship needs to be balanced, this and that. All these different control schemes need to be balanced against each other. One thing I threw out there and this is something I probably want to probe the panel here for, is just give the guns auto aim. Just have some sort of mechanic where your guns aim themselves. Even the fixed guns, you can't tell me the fixed guns can't gimbal, because we have convergence even on the fixed guns. You have 2 degrees of inward and outward convergence on all guns, even the fixed guns, so that they all hit at the same spot on the ship. And with that, you can have a crazy flight model. You can have a crazy stupid flight model, and then the guns just kind of take up the slack.
So it's more about the flying than it is about gunnery.
Yeah.
That the only problem about that is then you've got the issue of turreters and people in turrets,
Yes.
because then it
Well,
just
standing still
becomes-
is just death, and then you start working with stuff like slew rates in your guns. How many degrees can your turret or your gun move? If you have a bigger gun on your ship, it just moves slower. So then you have to start flying in such a way to account for how fast your guns can converge.
I agree and disagree. I mean, metas will always shift, and the things are going to change a lot when people start when there's mechanics in there for crew to really start dialing in your systems and constantly be bouncing energy back and forth between shields and weapons and all that stuff. That's a whole nother level of dexterity that'll change a lot of the way things go. But I think I agree in the sense that I think flying should feel good. I mean, that's the bottom line. It should feel good to fly your ship, no matter what ship it is. And people understand bigger ships take longer to turn. It's just the way it is. But and then everything else. I think I don't think auto aim necessarily. They have sort of auto aim in general, kind of already in the game.
Well, they have it with the turrets. The turrets right now have hideous auto aim. Like once you figure out where it snaps, it'll snap to the target, and your guns will just start tracking.
And it's actually a problem, because if you want to try to hit a specific spot on a ship, those turrets will be locked into the center rather than on the sides. So
I think they'll dial it in, but I think I'm pretty encouraged by it. But yeah, I would say that dig in for a potential rough ride when they first drop the.
Oh yeah. My only hope is that they keep an open mind about it. But I'm fairly confident that they're keeping an open mind, because the person that's in charge of feedback for the flight model team is Bayer of Red.
Yeah.
And
they'll get feedback.
The thing about Bayer of Red is that Bayer of Red was a community member. He was a streamer here on Twitch, and he was the person who maintained a giant Excel spreadsheet of data for all the weapons, for the flight characteristics, everything, and he constantly updated it with a couple other people in the community. And so when he was hired on, I just about did a happy dance, just shouted to the universe of happiness, because he is probably the best person to deal with balancing issues and that kind of stuff, because he is insanely data driven, and he is very good at making polling the community. He knows who to talk to in the community, who do really well. He's good at monitoring the community and figuring out who's the people who are very focused on performance and data, and then pulling them to try to get all that kind of stuff. He's a fantastic addition to CIG, and he was the one who was running the show.
My problem with extremely
CitizenCon
data driven gameplay design is that you end up losing the feel. There's something to say about the visceral feel and the sense of accomplishment you get for actually having agency in a game, actually having an effect on the target when you pull the trigger, instead of just having to flail your controls all over the place. I'm
going to say he's also the guy who would literally, if he was in Aurora, you would run for the hills in Arena Commander.
Yeah.
He would, he get him in an LN, he would kill you. Before he was in CIG, he was literally the best Aurora pilot. And when the Cutlass came out, he was the only one, when it handled a pig on ice, a greased up pig on ice. He was the one who could make it dance and kill everybody. So he's also a very good pilot. He was one of the top 10 for the long times as well. So he's very data driven, but he also understands feel and viscerality. That's the reason why a lot of people were happy when he got hired. So, anyways, moving on to the next question, because we spent a lot of time on this, but it was a good question. Yeah. So good question about the flight model and stuff. FC asks, serious question: if CIG didn't have to worry about polishing every patch, where do you think we'd be in development now? How close to release, or would they have released both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen by now? So if they're doing a traditional release model, do you think they'd have already released Squadron 42 or Star Citizen?
Probably not, but I think they'd be a lot further along if they didn't have to worry about the live build too much. I think Texas Skulls, as a developer, could probably attest to how much effort it takes to actually push out a live build every so often for the community.
It's the quarterly patches. Again, it adds overhead, because they need to bring all their fixes back into game dev, which they said. Chris Roberts fucking said it. 2 to 6 weeks, I think he said on.
Not just bringing everything back in, but when they push a live build, there's stuff they don't want us to see. There's stuff from Squadron 42 that exists in the game branch. All the Van Duel stuff, all the UE stuff, the capital ships that aren't finished, all the prototype stuff they're working on the dev build that may be in there. They have to pull out. They have to close that off, because it's not ready for us.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think the thing that delays the overall development of the game is a lot of core technology that hasn't been made before. They're making from custom, they're custom making from scratch. So, Chris Roberts mentioned it on stage, and he probably mentions it every CitizenCon, but it's not a linear progression when you're doing things like that. When you're making tools from scratch, as opposed to using off-the-shelf tools, it is not going to be linear. It's going to be real slow takeoff, and then once you've taken off, then it will start to go straight for the sky. So
No, and
I think right now, I just think that maybe adding stuff to a live playable build is taking time, but I think the thing that's taking more time is the fact that they're not using off-the-shelf tools, and it'll pay dividends, but we're only now starting to get into a range of development where you can actually see the dividends. It's been promises in the past, and now we're starting to see how much faster stuff gets implemented than it has in the past.
Sure. It's more so though in an isolated environment, you're building the same exact game in both cases, but in one scenario you're releasing quarterly, and in another scenario you're releasing maybe yearly, if even that. Which one's going to be faster and more and further along?
I don't know.
It's going to be the one that's releasing left off.
Yeah,
What's
maybe.
that?
But releasing is wouldn't be a term that they would use in a closed circuit, right? I mean, they would have a continuous testable build, and then they'd have experimental builds. It'd be similar in the sense that you need a build that you can test, and then you need builds that are experimental. And the difference being that I don't think they placate us that much with the live build. I know that they try to get it stable enough for us to enjoy, and that's part of their funding, source. But I don't think that you would see a hugely different workflow. I think you're right. I mean, you wouldn't have this pressure on to make the live build more high quality.
It's not even that though. It's none of that. It's the simple fact that you're merging one code base back into another.
It's going to cause bugs. Yeah.
It's as simple as anytime they do a release for us backers, they branch off the code, and this is now the 3.3 code base, right? They have game dev, which is continuing to progress. People don't stop working on game dev, so that continues down the line. And now you have 3.3, where it takes its own path. And then eventually at some point, which is usually when they release to live, they have to merge that 3.3 fixed code base with all its bug fixes and all its changes back into game dev.
Right, but you would have that anyway on a 7-year development cycle. You can't just go to the end and then finally bring finally do.
You'll have branches, but I think what he's saying is that you wouldn't have it as often as you do with the live build.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it wouldn't be as
that's the only point is that it adds an extra layer of overhead. It's not like it's adding 3 years to development here or anything, but it does add time. And the more often they patch, the more overhead in terms of time merging all that code base back in there is.
I would say if to reword the question, if that's sort of the start of the conversation, I would say it would speed up things to not have a live server, but it would speed things up more to not be trying to create things from scratch like they are. So if you took away the
absolutely, yeah. 100%.
It would speed things up some. If you took away some of the ambitious things they're trying to do on the back end, that would be the largest gain. And we'd have gained by now, I think, if you weren't trying to do.
I will also make a point though, in that what they're doing right now, one of the few small advantages of what they're doing right now is that because they're doing this live and patching it on the fly, and they're getting a lot of feedback from the players. They're able to do some balancing and some changes earlier on when they need to, rather than having to wait until release. Most games you wait until release and it comes out, and then they have to take the feedback from their players and then adjust it, and that takes time. That's why most people say, like with an MMO, they'll say at the release of an MMO, just wait a year and it'll be completely different, because they've taken all these feedback and they realize, oh, we need to change this and that and the other thing, and then like the year later, it feels like a totally different game because they've smoothed out all the problems, and because no development team has 4,000 people plus to test the game on a regular basis. And what Star Citizens has with its live release is at least it has thousands of players hitting their servers with hammers as hard as they can to find all the bugs, but also to tell them, hey, this feels like garbage. This ship stinks.
Sure. But what happens when the underlying system that they're balancing completely changes? What happens when they balance the old flight model and then literally you have a new flight model and have to do all the balancing?
It's definitely a lot of work that's tossed away. But at the same time, when the game is reaching its final stage, there'll probably be a lot more smooth in the release than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we're sort of like
not you.
Your
chat.
Paving the way for a basically a new paradigm in game development, a persistent, continuous content development pipeline, and whether that looks like it does now with the way the game is being developed now, or whether it changes a bit. I think trying to get it's the meta of the game dev. There's the game dev and there's the meta of the game dev, and they're trying to refine that to a point where and get everybody's expectations used to the fact that content is being dropped semi-continuously and not doing this whole DLC dance and this whole version marketing ploy that a lot of games do these days. And I think that's valid. I mean, I'm glad that they're trying
to get everybody used to the idea of early access garbage. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, they're trying to do the opposite of that, where like Star Citizen isn't really early access or any of that stuff. He's saying, when is the game coming out? The game is out. This is how we're going to make content for the future. This is you're going to get updates on a regular basis, and we're going to continue to refine the game almost indefinitely like this. And so get used to it. That's it.
I think, and we all knew that. Like the reality is that even when they have 100-star systems and a fully working systems in the back end, they're not going to be like, oh, we're done. We're just going to walk away now. Like Chris is going to want to add fully functional shopping malls and Tavaran Kung Fu and whatever crazy shit that Chris Roberts can come up with, because the one thing that Chris Roberts never lacks it's in imagination. In terms of what he can do, and
to that end, I think they're training themselves for that as well. They're conditioning us, but they're also training their own resources for that pipeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which kind of brings up something that irritates me. They're currently treating the live environment, like the current alpha live environment, as the release game. You look at the mission payouts right now, like they got the ships in the game. Like you're never going to be able to afford a goddamn Cutlass Black before they hit reset. The next reset they hit. It's just going to be. It's right now. Like we're supposed to test the game, right?
1.5 million.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just because the missions aren't balanced quite yet, right? And they're not. That's just a matter of time. Like
I don't put much weight behind that. I mean, are we really supposed to test how we get to 1.5 million and then buy a ship? We already tested buying ships in the PTU with fake money. We already know that the mission payouts and everything is completely fucked and needs to be balanced at some point. I don't really feel like we're testing anything at this point. At this point, we're just playing the damn game until they get a new patch out, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're still finding.
It's something that for all of us who spend an inordinate amount of time in the game, more than we should, it'll give you something to use all that money on besides owning all the armor and all the guns.
I mean, just because 1.5 million AUEC is an incredibly large amount of money, doesn't mean that I'm not going to attempt to make 1.5 million AUEC so I can buy a Cutlass Black in game.
Well, you're the jackass who made over 1 million in 2.0. So
okay, no,
I don't know how.
It was 2.5 between 2.25 to 0.26. I made almost 2 million UEC. Because I said my goal was to make 1 million UEC before 2.6 released, and I destroyed that goal within a couple of months because 2.6.
And what were the mission payouts?
It was like
thousands.
It was 2,000. It was 2,000 a shot. But I also paid for everything. So I paid for restocks and repairs. I didn't eject when I didn't have to. So I was making 2,000 per mission, plus losing money because I had to go restock, plus also losing money because I started to buy guns and stuff like that if I wanted to have fun and not just do missions.
Right.
So, and it was possible under that. It was possible, and it just took goddamn time.
There's no real in-game buying of ships. Let's be honest. Once rental of ships comes into the game, because that's what we're doing with the purchasable ships anyway, is renting them until the next wipe of next patch. So, so once rental comes out, purchasing ships is not going to be a thing in game because you're never going to purchase them until the game goes live anyway. But
you know what? Forget rental. What about just financing? Right? I mean, even if you want to buy the ship, why can't? What's to say that you just can't finance the ship? Right? Yeah. What's to say that they don't put in a mechanic that says, yeah, you can finance it and pay over X months?
Will I be able to get the extended warranty on that ship? Can I get the extended LTI warranty on it?
Well, as an auto finance expert myself, I will gladly finance things, and if you don't pay me, I'll fucking repossess it. So,
and by repossess, he means he'll break both your legs in Star Citizen. And
by repossess, it means I'm going to get Bayer of Red to come find you and kill you in game, right?
I will say that one of the things that they actually talked about was the idea of loans of finance in game for new players, so that you could if you ran out of money. That was way early. That was 2015, like 2014.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if CIG supports the in-game of loans. The in-game loans, players will try to do it. I mean,
I'm going to do it. I'm going to create the Iron Bank of Star Citizen. I'll get my fucking money.
The bank, the Daniela Burke Bank.
Yes, the Bank of Daniela Burke. Get out of here!
I can't wait for indentured slavery. I can't wait for indentured servitude for players.
Yeah.
Lock some, throw someone starting Aurora, their pity Aurora into my reclaimer and said, you can have this back when you've paid off your loan, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And you just take off.
Hey, I am going to have bar tabs. So if someone doesn't pay their bar tabs, I will hire a bounty hunter to go find you and kill you.
Yes.
And steal your ship so I can, use your ship for collateral. But I will be.
I'm going to listen. You're going to be hanging. You're going to be floating around, right, in like a 600i or like an 890 jump or whatever, and you're going to have your floating space bar, right? I'm going to come cruise on up next to you in my Kraken, and I'm going to advertise whatever his drink prices are, mine are 1 UEC less.
1 UEC less.
1 UEC less. How are you afford
that'll literally be my advertisement.
When Paul Shelley hires someone to come take care of you. I can't wait for like mob style like block shakedowns.
Exactly.
This is our block.
We'll have
I'll set up
Boston accent. Yeah.
I'll set up. I'm going to set up the pub and a bunch of like guys are going to walk in and be like, "Nice place, nice spaceship you got here. Be sad if it burned down,
and burned down in space. I know, right? Shame if something were to happen to it.
It'll be great.
I know, right? You're like you have like military. It's like I remember there's a Monty Python episode. I'm gonna go back to Monty Python. There was a Monty Python episode where they had some mobsters try to shake down an army base. It was hilarious. Like how many tanks you got here? Well, we have over 1,700 tanks and planes, and they're like, it'd be a shame if something were to happen. He knocks a fucking clock off the wall.
Yeah,
you say Monty so weird every time you say it. I think
Monty
Muay Thai.
Python.
It sounds like you're saying Muay Thai Python. Like some karate fucking snake, that's
how we talk around
here, doing some Muay Thai,
That's how we talk in America around here, around these parts.
Monty.
You guys are all dramatizing this, but like huge orgs are gonna have like monthly bills. Like you're gonna be hey, you want to be part of our thing, and you got to pay us this much UEC a month.
Percentage, yeah.
No, it's like I 100% expect a shakedown. I expect to set my bar up in some space and like have ADI show up, and be like, this is a test bar. You can't have a test bar in ADI space. Get the hell out before we blow your ship up, kind of thing.
Well, when you see that stuff with EVE Online now, EVE Online has it built in where corporations just have a baseline tax rate, and so say 10% of everything that you make off missions immediately gets deposited into the corporate account. So maybe we'll see mechanics that far. Maybe we'll see it as a more manual thing. Who knows?
I remember they had org tools on the production schedule coming up. It was like on 3.6 or 3.5.
Yeah.
So
that'll be cool.
I'd love to see built-in corporate tax.
Yeah, no, they'll definitely have it. I mean, and I would love to see that there's a corporate tax from. I'd actually love to see like a CIG money sink for having an org open. And the only reason why I like why I like this kind of idea is just because it forces players to think rather than just be like, it's a video game. F it. I'm just going to go like crash my Aurora into people and go lol, 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 lol. But when you're like, you do that and suddenly like you're wanted by 17 different groups, it's like, oh, my consequences of actions.
I have the death penalty on 7 systems. Well, be careful. You'll be dead.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Next question comes from Zfiro, who asks, next question comes from SC, who asks a fun question. Who else enjoys the fact that 3.3 AF was released to live?
Yes, it was.
It was 3.3 AF. That's for sure.
Was it
It's pretty cool AF.
Fun as AF? Yeah. Was
Mhm.
it fun as fuck? That's the whole. We're
Classic.
dancing around it. We're dancing around it.
Yes.
AF.
Ooh, or is it broken
As
AF?
fuck.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever it was just 3.3 AF. That's all it was. That's what this live build was. It's 3.3 AF. Next question comes.
We're all going to be playing 3.3.5 in 3 days anyway. Let's be honest.
Probably as soon as it gets PTU. We'll see how quickly that gets pushed.
3.3 live is going to be the shortest lived build ever.
It will be, but it's not
Like-
really. It's not even really a live build. It's more just an excuse so that they can get to 3.3.5 almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zefro
They should have just
asks,
brought 3.3.5. All right, fine, I'm done. Nope.
Yep.
Continue, please.
Zefro
Carry on.
asks, passengers transport. Do you think will be necessary at this point of the game or near future?
Honestly, like I'm thinking about when Hurston comes in, like some ships won't be able to make the jump entirely, so you may need to have to offer like because you could spawn ships wherever, right?
Mhm.
Levski, Grimhex, Alistar. I suspect Lorville you'll be able to get your ship spawned over there. So for the foreseeable future, I suspect if you just have an Aurora, like you may go like, I need transport to Hurston. Anybody got a Valkyrie that I could get on or something?
I
Something
think
like
that. Yeah, I think a passenger transport will be a thing. I don't think that passenger transport, like heavy lift, will be a thing because, as it is, servers only have so many people. You know, what are the chances of that many people at the same time piling into your thing and leaving? But I
Yeah.
do think that passenger transport as a business could be a thing because, like you said, you may not, once they get some fuel mechanics in there and stuff like that, it's like, hey, I don't have a ship that can make that jump. Or I don't want to spend those types of resources. I'm just going to get passage on this thing or whatever.
Mhm.
Be like,
Yeah.
hey, anybody that's listed themselves as a passenger transport service.
And they also talked about it on
Passenger-
the
Well,
We also
passenger
talked-
transport will become a thing when ships can no longer be spawned anywhere, right?
Mhm.
Like when I get stranded in system, or at Port Olisar and I need to get back to Hurston because that's where all my ships are, passenger transport will become a thing for sure.
Yeah.
Until then, I mean, think about it. Most people are just going to go to the ship console and say, screw it, let me just claim my ship and then wait for it to come back.
Now,
Now
I think
maybe
Space
with people
Rubber-
that get those big ones will be like, hey, we're on a rescue mission, but if you want a nice economical pickup, you're going to have to get picked up and then wait for us to fill this bad boy up and then go make stops everywhere. It'd be like a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
but
like
yeah,
Space Uber. Like Space Uber
Yeah,
already
Space-
exists sort of in there, and I think it'll make more sense when people are like, I don't want to have to fly my ship from A to B, and I need to meet my friends here at some point, or even just like, hey, my ship got
Yeah.
blown up on the planet. I need some help. So you call Space Uber, and someone will take that Space Uber. Just make sure
Yeah.
you offer enough money for your Space Uber because no one's going to take your
Well-
Space Uber for 200 credits.
Not to mention
Fuck
something
that
else
shit
that
up.
kind of needs to go in for passenger transport is the inverse of the beacon system that we have now, right?
Mhm.
Because right now it's a pull, it's a request system. It's saying I need transport, and what I think one of the things that they need is the push system, as in, hey, I'm a passenger transport ship, right? I need to be able to list that I am accepting contracts to transport people. The inverse of someone saying, hey, I need a lift. So I
Agreed.
think they need that too.
Well, they said on one of the calling all devs, or it was around the verse.
Mhm.
I think it was calling all devs, where they said, they talked about having your player character being moved offline, and they said it was considered. They were talking about it. They weren't really to pull the trigger on that, but I know people will still find a way to make this happen. Like you'll log in, have your player walk onto someone's ship, and then they'll probably like your org mates or somebody you trust. You walk onto their ship, they travel somewhere, and they push you off. And then you come back from work and there you are. You're at your destination 8 hours later or something.
Yeah. Didn't they? No, they said that they didn't want to do it and that there were zero plans, at least as of today, to do that because they
Yeah.
said that it skips too much content.
Offline.
I also think that
moving.
they'll create some sort of people will give you a service for moving your ship from one place to another, and maybe the devs will be willing to entertain the idea of, hey, I can give access to my ship to this service. They can go get it, put it on their Kraken or whatever ship they use to transport, larger ships. It'll be a healthy ticket, but you won't have to do it yourself if you don't
They
want
should
to.
100% do both of those. Both of those, I think, are awesome things. The one thing that they shouldn't do is allow you to be offline and just your character gets moved.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ship transport, 100%.
Distance.
that's
Well,
really great
I
thing.
just like
Part of
most MMOs usually break down with fast travel, and eventually put some system in there that allows you to do that.
I think that's
yeah.
a time investment thing though. Like the economy of the ship is has a big portion invested in how fast it can get you from one place to another, or how far it can do that without refueling, etc. So once the distances become so large that it becomes commuter citizen, that's when you start saying, okay, now I can add more gameplay to this player's day by giving him the option to jump faster to these other places. Whereas up until now, if it takes you 30 minutes to get somewhere, that's because it's a long ways away, and that's why you have a nice ship that can go fast or something like that.
Yeah. Think about it though this way, right? Most MMOs they have fast travel and things like that. That's because you constantly need to bounce around between distant locations, right? Whereas Star Citizen, they're designing this game where you could technically stay within the confines of a single planet for the entirety of the game if you really wanted, right? And you could just play there and do everything that you needed. So I feel like Star Citizen isn't most MMOs in that respect, in that you probably won't need to ever leave a single planet, or at least the sphere of influence of a planet, right? Bounce around to its
a planetary
system.
system.
You probably never need to leave that, or at least if not a planet's sphere of influence, at least the system. You may never need to leave it.
I have a quick question on this, similar or related. What ship carries the most people in seats in the game right now?
The Valkyrie,
Yeah,
The Valkyrie has
because
the
it holds
highest
20
trans-
people.
and it has the largest jump range too.
That's in seats, though. Granted, in a Caterpillar, you can stuff a fucking million people.
Standing room, probably
standing room,
Starfarer.
I feel like they're not gonna
Starfarer
keep that.
has all the internal decks, the Starfarer plus the gantry plus the captain's quarters.
I don't
all
think
the,
they're gonna-
internal space.
Yeah, maybe people in beds and stuff like that. But yeah, I think eventually they're going to make it so at the very least, for sure, certain phases of flying you won't be able to be standing up for. Like
No.
Yeah, and that'll be the Valkyrie for that.
yeah, so
I'm
I think
assuming
they
like
should-
burn and retro burn. So like if you're going off into like out of or in quantum, you probably need to be strapped in, or if you're going through jumps,
yeah.
be strapped.
Well, they
in.
said that they wanted to translate G-force. That's it. They right now
it does.
the only people
It
that
does.
experience
You could ragdoll passengers in your ship. I've done it in my Cutlass
no,
Black.
no. What I'm saying is in the new flight model, it does, because you actually see they on the new HUD they were using. You could actually see how many G's and where the G's were directing you to. So if the G's were pushing you kind of like back into to the right, then you'd see the little dot on like a little circle be moved to the right.
So you're saying that if you're in a Valkyrie pulling a bunch of G's, all guys sitting in those chairs are going to start blacking out too, just like you will.
Yes.
Well, right now,
And anyone adding those chairs is going to start blacking out and bouncing up around the
right now in 3.3, even 3.2.2, the previous version, if you pulled high G maneuvers with passengers just hanging around your cargo area of your Cutlass Black, they would ragdoll. They wouldn't get thrown. They wouldn't be like a washing machine where they get thrown around and start hitting walls and stuff, but they just fall over like fainting goats.
What?
It was funny.
Yeah,
I've never seen this.
it's
You've
weird.
never seen it?
I've seen it happen before. You have to hit some extreme G's to make it happen.
You have to turn off.
Is it
you have to
less
turn off
ragdoll
G-Set
where they just pass out?
to
and
pass out. They just fall over.
Okay, so they don't move around, but they do
Yeah.
potentially pass out. So
There's
like
some
you get the
effects,
blackout point or red out point. Okay.
Some effect, yeah. That's cool.
Okay.
All right, I do want to do an update because one of the things that it's important to mention as well is that we're doing a fundraiser for Stack Up as part of what this is, and I do want to thank everyone who is currently doing !Valor in chat. If you guys are interested, and those of you who are watching on YouTube down below, we've raised so far $2,282 as a team, and we've had like 9 donations on this channel. So thank you guys so much for donating.
We've pretty much sunk our goal so far.
Our first goal was $1,000, and we nailed through that. Now our next one is $3,000. If we reach 7,000 before the end of the time, I'm actually giving away. I've got this little code here for a certain.
Yeah, make sure you show that code on stream.
Yeah, right here. It's right here. It's right here. But it's a Saber Raven. So I've got a Saber Raven for you guys who are interested.
What's the first 3 digits of that code again, Paul? I can't remember.
It's FUC right there. FUC. Anywho, so we are going to give away that if we reach our 7,000 goal at the end of this this whole thing. So please do that. Anywho, moving on. Next question comes from Mayonnaise015, who asks, when is the next Pantsless and Picado or Pulsar adventure? When Texas Skulls is not putting his head through the computer monitor.
Yeah, when he's not sweating bullets over Versmate being currently ineffective in 3.3.
Look, I'm excited for the point when Star Citizen is capable of us doing stuff like that in Star Citizen.
Dumb shit
That's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, we'll put more Pulsar type things, right?
Yeah, right.
Obviously, Pantless and Picado is a whole nother ball game. But listen, I mean, I'll go to Korea without pants. You know, I'm okay with that.
Well, I mean, we talked about it on the Space Bros show last night as well, which was talking about how, you know, eventually probably Star Marine's going to get a Battle Royale mode because it's not that complicated from what they have already, or a combined arms mode at the very least. So they're just in the future, not like tomorrow, not like next year, but soon, because it's one of those standard things that's starting to become standard with all FPSs is a Battle Royale mode of some kind. So who knows?
Yeah.
We could have Pantless on, I don't know, is there a P planet?
I'm trying to think.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
A pea planet? What?
A P planet. Yes, a planet made of P. No, a planet that starts with P in terms of its name.
Well,
Pluto.
Yeah.
Pantsless and Pluto. that sounds like it would be very cold.
It's called Commando.
I know. You got to be careful about that. You may cancel some Pluto. You may actually see some Uranus.
Wow.
Next question.
Wow.
You're having fun.
And we're done.
Next question.
You know,
Texas Skulls, you knew the risk when you accepted
next
this
fucking question. God damn it. From Nene015, who asks, if you could change the internal layout of any ship, what ship's layout would you change and why? Let's start with you, Snake Eater.
I don't know if I have like enough experience with all ships to have one that seems like it just badly needs a complete rework. There's just little odds and ends. I guess I'll just take it from my perspective of the ships I own. Mm-hmm. Of the two that I've got, there's one that has little nitpickies, and there's one that I think there's one part of the ship that could use a real rework. So I'll say that people have already talked about sort of like the bunks and stuff in the Valkyrie. I think that just needs a little bit of rethinking. Maybe they just make it doors like it is in the Cutlass, where it's escape pods, and if you wanted to sleep in there and lay down in there, maybe it could be sealed, but the purpose of them is to lay down and get ejected out of there. But really, the other ship I own is a 600i, and I think the downstairs dwelling area where there's like 4 tiny cots and a huge open wood floor with nothing on it, I would love to see reworked a bit. And I've talked a couple of times on stream about what I would like to go in there. I think that if, minimum effort would be like the Phoenix's piano and some tables or something, but maximum effort would be like either modular medical area to make it a baby Carrack. It has an exploration model. Mine is an exploration version, and so it would be nice to have a form of medical bay or something. And, compromise in between those two things would just be like make them bedrooms like in the Phoenix, make them tiny little bedrooms down there. That just big, huge space down there is like you've got this huge ship, and one of the 3 biggest rooms in the ship is for absolutely nothing. It's for like break dancing or something like that,
All right. How about you, Texas Skulls? Sorry, wife came
Super
in.
Hornet.
Super Hornet?
Mm-hmm.
How so? How would you change the interior layout of the Super Hornet?
It just doesn't flow very well right now. It's upsetting, really.
Yes.
It's kind of complex. It's hard to navigate. I would change the Caterpillar. The only reason I would change the Caterpillar is because that's like my like cargo trading power running or power leveling ship, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I'm just trying to make max money. Mm-hmm. And it takes me like a goddamn minute to get from the pilot seat to on the ground. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the layout. It's just it takes me too long.
They do have that door in the pilot's cab on the lower deck that doesn't work.
think it's supposed to be a back door.
Wait, what?
The
There's
module, the cab itself, the escape module that you can like eventually you'll be able to pop off and fly away. There actually is a door where that's designed so that when you land that thing on a planet, you can open it up and like get out. So
Wait, like right now it works?
no, it doesn't
No,
work.
it's not. No,
Oh.
It's just like
it's the lower
it's just
tractor
art
beam
right now.
access. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Well, I know the cab's supposed to come off. I get that part, but
Mhm.
there's a special door. Okay. There's a back
There's a-
door.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a door
there's
that's
a door.
supposed to. It should be able to work right now, where you should be able to walk through it and go straight into the bottom deck. But it
Wait,
doesn't.
what ship are we talking about again?
The
The
caterpillar.
Caterpillar.
The cat.
If you go, if you're in the cab of the Caterpillar, and then you go down to the hab complex, the habitation portion of the Caterpillar's cab, when you go to the tractor beam control unit, which is this big MFD
At the
in
bottom,
front of the
yeah.
window in the bottom, and you look to your left, when you're in front of that MFD, you look to your left. There's
Yeah.
a fucking door there. You can't use that door
Mhm.
right now.
Mm. I see. Okay.
You know what they should just do is make the cockpit of that ship the Herald.
The Herald. Just
Herald.
make it the Herald.
Just make it a Herald, and you like if worst comes to worst, you cut sling load
Yeah.
and punch it, and you're gone.
Yeah,
I like it. I
bobtail.
like it.
All
Yeah.
right. Next question. Oh wait, no, we got to do
Hey,
Vertigo.
hey,
Vertigo?
what are you doing? We're doing.
Trying to get away from the salt. Go for
I
it,
know.
salty boy.
So, unfortunately, the ship I'm thinking about now, it would have some internal modifications, but unfortunately, you would have to touch the external of the ship to do what I want with it. What I would do is I would take the Valkyrie, and I would get a bucket of soap and water and a Brillo pad, and I would scrub all the Anvil decals and words, anything that says Anvil on the side of or inside or outside of the Valkyrie. I would scrub all the Anvil identification and trademark off the Valkyrie, and I would replace it with the word Aegis, because the Valkyrie is an ugly fucking ship, and it doesn't deserve to be associated with the Anvil brand. It
All
deserves
Anvil
to be-
ships look ugly and
I'm gonna take that
blocky.
same scrub and I'm gonna shove it down your fucking throat.
It's like the Terrapin. It doesn't look like a.
You do realize
Anvil
the
ship.
Terrapin is the first Anvil ship, right?
Mm,
Like ever in lore, it's the first ship they actually made.
yes, I know, right?
Set the design language.
It's a
Yeah.
fucking brick. It's a brick with engines.
So is the
bolted
Hornet.
to
It just has a nice little cockpit on top of it. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just a brick with some swept wings and a small cockpit added.
You know
The
what?
swole-
You're
I
a
love
fucking brick.
You're manufacturerist.
I am.
Adam.
You're
I am a
manufacturer.
Drake. I am a Drake fan. So
I like
my
how
my
Mad
idea of my idea.
Aegis' life. Aegis can have the Valkyrie. We'll take the Vanguard. We'll reclaim the Vanguard as a Anvil ship.
all right.
Hang on. Wait a second. Hang on. I like the Vanguard too.
The ship I would change in terms of layout, it'd probably be the Starfarer, but not for the reasons why people say that it is. They just need to swap out all of those ladders for elevators, like they've done with on things like the Hammerhead and stuff like that, where they have all these like.
What about
elevators.
teleporting elevators like at Levski in the truck stops?
Those are cheating
yes.
elevators. I
I
just
know.
call them-
So
I
what
like
if they
to call-
did that in the Starfarer?
I like to call them the Christian elevators because they're totally fixed. He doesn't actually work on the elevators anymore, but like
I know,
still want
gameplay
to.
programmer.
Yeah, I just like to just twist that knife.
If we
in
want to
there.
if we want to get serious about what I would change, the Phoenix cockpit, they used the Andromeda cockpit in the Phoenix. Like it just doesn't feel right. It feels like they should have like a nicer view outside the. I always rage on the Constellation series, how just terrible the cockpit experience is for the Constellation. I just don't quite like it. They build this beautiful game with all these wonderful graphics, and they just put just garbage in front of your eyes, so you can't appreciate it. Like the glass effects and the struts and whatnot.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like, just
I
drives
don't-
you up a wall.
I honestly think the glass effects
Kinda
are
bad.
actually are a bug because I've actually talked about and I've seen it in other CryEngine games where that glass effect actually happens, and I remember them talking about them trying to chase down that bug and fix it, and it keeps coming back. Like every other patch, it'll like come back to like they'll fix it on the Hornet and it'll come back in the Hornet and like 2 patches later.
Yeah.
So
I mean, right now the glass effect isn't that bad, but there was a patch where they added extra tinting to the Aquila, and it was almost impossible to fly at night. But it was pretty good in daylight. Yeah, the scratches.
Okay, so I will twist the knife because apparently Christian is still working on those wonderful teleporting those cheater elevators that don't actually go up and down or anything.
They just they stay in place for like 15 seconds, and they just play the elevator music. They play the whiny elevator sound at you for 15 seconds, and then suddenly you're there.
It pops
Does it
up.
matter then? Does it really matter?
No, nothing matters.
Anyways, moving on. Next question comes from Sheep Citizen, who asks, with the possibilities to rent shops in the town, and will it be possible to rent shops in town? And will there also be a barn for me and my friends? Sheep Citizen, that's up to you. You don't have to like ask that in question. You can just bring it up in chat. You don't have to be so quiet all the time, Sheep Citizen.
Real estate citizen.
Yeah. No, I do think you'll be able to set up shops, but I don't think you'll be able to buy shops. I think you'll be able to just set up your like merchantman or something like that.
I would like the idea of players renting shop space.
Yeah.
So to sell wares and whatnot. Instead of just having NPC vendors, it would be nice that you can actually purchase an NPC vendor to sell your stuff that you maybe found something cool.
We'll see how Habs go. This will be like the first game that puts Habs in a physical space unique to every player in the game.
Yeah, that doesn't just cheat it.
Goes well, then maybe they'll move on to like commercial spaces and stuff like that. But
yeah,
we'll see.
They'll have the space. It's a matter of just adding the space
for sure. Yeah, they will.
And such.
I mean, is there going to be a galactic net where I can type in looking to buy like sort of slaying or something, or power plant of Vanduul resistance +5?
You should be able to have something like that in Spectrum, because Spectrum will exist in game. So I don't know. Next question comes from Firefly212, who asks, is there a planet pipeline sort of like a ship pipeline? Yes, there is a planet line sort of like the ship pipeline. That just means there's going to be a lot of copy pasta with some of the biomes.
It's just basically they take yellow, Control C, Control V, and then suddenly they got a new planet. They just got and then they resize it just like Photoshop.
Exactly. That's all they do.
That's all they do.
But I mean, they'll reuse a lot of the biomes that they create, and they've even said that, like in lore, they're making it so that there's some plants that they will always add in that humans always add in a newly terraformed planet to try to establish an ecosystem, which will probably be like the savanna biome or something like that. So you'll always see some plants which are similar between all planets, which makes sense. And I'm sure eventually, as they grow this pipeline, they get these tools. They'll have dozens of different tool sets for like, this is biome East Empire, biome West Empire. This is biome for only this planetary system, all that kind of stuff. It'll make it easier for them to make stuff. Next question comes from Manos015, who asks, do you think CIG might put planetary destruction into Star Citizen? For example, having a world event in the future where an asteroid collides with a planet.
Well, I can see it.
Yeah, artist developer, artist, game driven. Yes, not player driven ever.
I can see.
You'll probably have like a global event where this planet has asteroid heading for it right now. It's going to wipe out all life. We need 5. We need the best organizations to come over here and fight this asteroid. And you have to pew the asteroid, or you have to drill through it and plant a nucular bomb inside.
Yeah, I don't want to close my eyes. Sorry. Where's my Aerosmith?
I managed to do it to you. I just did it to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm probably on fire here, but like Fortnite continues to modify their map around storylines, I think that they could do stuff like that with like even just Hurston. Be like, hey, something happened. This factory over in this corner of town blew up. It's part of this larger plot line, and now players can experience quest lines and stuff like that have to do with that, or the thing hit somewhere on the planet, started spawning aliens, etc., that type of thing. But
or the Vanduul, right?
Blow up. Yeah, Vanduul show.
Or a Vanduul raid.
Really take that in.
We also we already have that a little bit. We have SPK, Security Point Korea. It's been changing over the patches, and I feel like that's going to be kind of their model for changing events. Because I feel like SPK, whatever they do with it, is going to be driven around what's going on between players, or there's some sort of events that are going to be happening around there. It's always been their model for FPS has been around Korea since before Star Marine was a thing. So who knows? But I do think it'll be definitely driven by their development and not player development. Not that players won't have an impact; it just won't be immediate. Next question comes from Mayonnaise015, who asks, sorry, you already asked that. Commander J. Shepard asks, do you think that the universe will end up being mostly oriented towards large ships with large crews and lots of teamwork necessary, or smaller ships with more focus on solo player experience? What are your predictions?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. There are definitely people out there who appreciate to play alone by themselves. They don't exactly want someone to tell them what to do all the time. You'll have people who are in transition who don't quite have the cash flow to support a larger ship with an AI crew, and it's the associated running cost for it. I really do think larger ships are going to be designed towards the organization level play, but you'll have individual players who will be able to afford the running cost of some of these larger multi-crew ships like the Idris, the Hammerhead, and whatnot. But I think you'll see a lot more people tend to run individual ships and larger fleets instead of trying to pool all the resources into one big ship like a single Hammerhead.
I think CIG is going to have a difficult time trying to actually make multi-person ships, multi-role ships. Multi-crew is the damn word I'm looking for. Multi-crew ships more worth it over individual ships. Like, how are you going to make me flying this Constellation Andromeda more worth it than me flying 3 Super Hornets, right? I think they're going to have a difficult time with that, and we'll see.
So I think that the initial pipeline being so centered around Squadron 42 will make it easier for them to create a lot of single-player content initially, because they've already kind of honed that pipeline for Squadron 42. Plus, the sheer percentage of people that have smaller ships versus larger ships, plus the server limitations of the size. If you the more people you want to put on a ship, the fewer those ships that can be out there doing stuff together, and it'll expand eventually, but initially I think it'll be fairly largely single player based.
Yeah. I think you'll have tiers. I think most people will be able to play around in their single player pool and do most of the content, but there'll be some content that will require you to team up with other people, and that their multi-crew ships will be more preferred than the multi-person squadron, because like right now the Hammerhead is beastly in combat. You can beat a Hammerhead. It's not impossible to beat him with multiple fighters, or even with a bomber, but it's like chiseling away at a 10-ton block with a pencil. You eventually you'll break. That block will break, but in the meantime, you're going to break a lot of pencils in trying to do that. So a well-kitted out, well-run crew will always beat a desperate number of smaller ships. And I think that's the Hammerhead is a good example of what big capital ships and larger multi-crew ships will offer. Like, I even think a Connie is more of a ship that's going to be part of a fleet rather than a one ship on its own. Whereas the Hammerhead, I could see it on its own.
But and let me clarify my position. I meant combat. Yeah, I wasn't speaking of industry. Like, for an Orion, you're going to need multi-crew, and Orion has a purpose. What I'm afraid of, though, is that in a small, think about the most common example of people playing video games, especially MMOs today, right? It's either solo or small groups of people. Mm-hmm. It's usually the exception where you have hundreds of people working together, or even 50 people working together, right? Sure, you have org events and things like that, and it happens, but I think your overwhelming play style is going to be like 3 or 4 people together playing. And I'm just afraid that 3 or 4 people are going to choose to fly 3 or 4 Hornets or Sabres or whatever, versus something like a Connie. Right?
Yeah, I think tuning the content for multiple people will take the form of more like fleet-oriented events. Like, if you wanted to create a raid, for example, it would be better and easier to tune that raid for players group up as a fleet, as opposed to all get on a large capital class ship. The Idris. Yeah. When people get onto a ship like a capital class ship, those ships are fairly specialized too. People think that, because it's huge, it can do everything, but it's actually the opposite. I mean, an Idris carries 2 ships within it, and what else does it do? I mean, it shoots a big gun off the front, maybe, if you have the right Idris, but in general, tuning an event or tuning content to a big ship like that is actually, it's compounding the challenge of A, you got to get people all on that ship. B, that ship's really not there to do anything but a couple specific things. And so I think grouping players together for multiple player content is going to be more based around fleet stuff as opposed to capital class stuff.
But it's also about fun, right? Like
Mhm.
people don't want to take up, like I remember someone saying, yeah, they're going to make the Idris require so many crew. And I was thinking, well, what are those positions? And people would come back and say, oh, well, someone's going to have to be like, on the flight deck as they showed in the Squadron 42 videos, signaling planes. I'm like, no one's going to want to do that because first off, there's only like 2 ships in there. Okay, so they'll signal 2 ships off, and then throughout the entire battle, they're going to sit on their ass. Like no one wants to do those things.
Yeah.
And so they have to make multi-crew combat fun. Otherwise, people are just going to fly their own ships.
Truth is, Capra class ships are not the participants in stories. Really, they are the story. If you look at the way they're designing these Capra class ships, they have level designers helping to design the interiors of Capra class ships, because both in Squadron 42 and in the game, they're going to be considered a destination, not a vehicle to the destination in a lot of ways. And so, you'll probably see more attempts to entice people to fight around that capital ship, maybe attack it or defend it, but not necessarily use it in content. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's going to be a balancing act, and I'm just a little pessimistic still on not so much pessimistic. I'm anxious to see what CIG does to make multi-crew fun and worthwhile. Yeah. Yes, there are certain ships that will always need multi-crew and will be flown because they have a purpose. Yes, you will have large fleet battles, between orgs. They happen enough, but in EVE Online, you have these big, corp fleet roams, right? Where you have 100, 200 people or more that all go out and roam together. Sure, but what happens in downtime? Downtime is either a solo player goes out to do some missions to make money or mine or this or that, or a small
PvP,
group of people.
small group,
or a small group, or 3 or 4 people go out and do some missions or mine or PvP. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So big fleet events will happen and will happen often enough, but it's what happens in the downtime to keep people.
And there's also something I want to pull up. I've been watching trying to catch up on some MMO stuff because I haven't played too many MMO stuff. So I've been trying to watch some videos that have to deal with MMOs. And one thing I've been watching is World of Warcraft and how they've changed over the years, and how World of Warcraft vanilla, starting a raid in vanilla World of Warcraft, was kind of like this Herculean leadership effort, where you had to find people who had the right builds for what you needed, healers, tanks, DPS kind of stuff. And you had to go out there and you had to find these people, schedule with them, get them all together, as opposed to later in World of Warcraft's lives where you just clicked a button to join a raid. Mm-hmm. And they started reducing the number of people required from raid from 40 to 20 and all that kind of stuff. And you start to tear away at the social aspects of the MMO, where you have to go out and you have to know people, invite them, and you kind of have to learn all the stuff. They changed the loot dynamics over the years, and I was watching some complaint videos about that today, about how the loot dynamics changed over the course of World of Warcraft. And you start stripping away at the M part of the MMO, the multiplayer part, the social aspect, where you have to go out and you have to interact with players. Instead, you just click a button and say, yep, I'm in a raid now with my character. Click. I'm in there.
I don't think CIG with its tram citizen and commuter citizen, I don't think that's going to be a problem with CIG. I think they're pretty dedicated to the idea that if you're going to go from point A to point B, then God damn it, you're going to go from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. You're going to experience every second of going from point A to point B. There is no easy button.
And now go ahead.
Yeah, I really hate the idea of people mic spamming over VoIP. I understand the necessity of it, but it kind of when I really just want to rip VoIP out of my gameplay session because some asshole's playing like the Rickroll over VoIP. I'd rather have VoIP be like, okay, is anybody at Kovalix? I hear no response.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no response, so I'm going in weapons hot, and I see somebody, pew, 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 you're dead. Like I got shot by some dude in an RSI's flight suit today, and he didn't respond over VoIP. So it's just like, well, I pulled my punches. I tried to give you, benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, well, we're all trying to embody avatars that have a big part to play in storylines, and I enjoyed WoW's 40-man raids for a while. There were some golden days in there, but the truth of the matter is, the real sweet spot for content in an MMO, in my opinion, is like that 5 to 10 person mark, because it's small enough for people's impact to be measurable and to be noticeable, and that's important because you need to feel like you're a hero in that story.
And you can one person. Keep in mind, we're not professionals. We're not sergeants or lieutenants or generals in an army.
Universe,
okay,
yeah.
in the universe. No, like not in real life either. We don't have these leadership positions or roles. We're not CEOs. Like managing.
You're talking about.
large. Managing a large group of people is a skill in itself.
Yeah,
and some of us come home after work to play video games. I know I'm a streamer. I have to kind of bring this back down. Some of us come home to play video games to relax, not to put more effort into assembling 40 assholes or 39 assholes into a fucking raid so you can get a 5% drop chance on the shoulder plates of mana thingies. So
good name. Solid
mana thingies.
Solid names. Yes. CIG should hire me to name the thingies that they need naming.
Yeah, we had from chat. Dirk says 5 to 10 people doesn't give an epic sense of scale, but I guess what I'm talking about in this game, it's a little bit unique because you have
That's a ship
you can be a crew in. And so
it doesn't give you scale, but it gives you something that is manageable. You can herd 5 to 10 cats in your game.
Yeah, like when you're in a ship and one of your turret gunners saves your ass, you can be like, pump your fist in the air and be like, good job, dude. But if you're in a Kappa class ship and somebody, manages to treat somebody's ailment, or an engineer, does something, maybe it's epic, maybe it's not epic. But, in a flight crew capacity, maybe you're a flight crew on a ship and then you're part of a fleet. But that's what I guess I mean is that whatever they have to do to tune it so that you feel like your contribution is noticeable and not like a Star Wars scene where the vast majority of everybody are like definitely gonna die TIE fighters. It's like, you don't want to be that guy. You want to be part of an awesome crew of dudes and men and women that had an impact. So
yeah,
at least to each other, if not to the larger cause.
Yeah, with a smaller group, you can have more impact in a smaller group, 5 to 10 people. It's easier to manage that 5 to 10 people as a leadership role. So, and it's easier for CIG to build, bite-sized chunks of content for that 5 to 10 people group. When you start seeing like
losing Vertigo.
No robots. Sorry.
I mean, it may be my end. It may be my end. We'll see here. Hold on.
No, it was all at Discord, but it's okay. I think now.
We'll just So yeah, it's easier to maintain that, to build stuff for that 5 to 10 person group. When you start having, hundreds of people needing content, you could make that 100-person epic raid. Like I got nothing on Discord. What's going on?
Hello.
I can hear you guys.
We can hear you. We're just having some Discord issues. Hold on. Let me go to the intro real quick. You keep talking. I'm gonna wait until our stuff is figured out, because it looks like Discord is losing its.
I think it would be really good for them to tune it to those sizes. I think attempting to tune not be sort of rare occasions, but having that ability to get a handful of your friends. Again, it's really where is the center of gravity of the game? When it comes to game design, you have to ask, where is the center of gravity of the player base? And it's going to be in that 1 to maybe even 5 crew size, if not the 10 crew size.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to change Discord servers for not servers, but the regions, because it looks like the U.S. South was going down.
But yeah, you can make the larger instances more player driven, player versus player kind of stuff, org versus org, or you could just have like if you want to go fight the Vanduul, take your 100-player org and just go into Vanduul space, and we'll just spawn a bunch of shit on top of you. You can kind of do that kind of stuff, but obviously they do want to have these nice epic set pieces. Chris Roberts loves cinematics. He loves that kind of cinematic feel, and Chris Roberts probably consumes a lot of sci-fi stuff. So of course he wants like the Wolf 395 battle
359. Yeah, Wolf.
Here's a question.
Battlestar Galactica, Pegasus, and the Battlestar the Galactiverse is the Cylons, that kind of stuff.
Here's a question that is related to you guys and chat. If one of the ways that MMOs create bespoke experiences for those groups of players that they're trying to make content for, which is the small 5-man groups or whatever, is creating instances. And I know that they're trying to push the technical envelope, and I know that it's amazing when it works, but for the sake of content, for the sake of a bespoke experience, how would you guys feel about having a requirement for certain ship size and a jump point that basically takes you into an instance so that your crew can experience a more bespoke type of environment?
Well, it doesn't have to be an instance, though. That's the whole idea behind server meshing, is that you may have 1,000 people in the same location, but you're meshed into different instances per se.
Yeah, but people come in and out of that area, and
I would like the idea of having like if a PvE instanced area just for the people who have accepted that mission.
I would. I don't know.
You mean literally like branch them off? And shield them from
from other people. Here would be my issue. Here's my issue with that. I think it's a good idea, but I think it's a good idea in a very particular sense. Like, not necessarily say, hey, anybody who's not part of this PvE mission can get fucked off. More like, you can get to the PvE mission, something like the Grinder, which is, I think, Tiber, the system, which is a system that is constantly fought between the UEE and the Vanduul. And so if you go to the UEE and they go, hey, we need... all of our forces are extended. We need someone to go retrieve an SOS, a black box. We have, someone who's sending out an SOS message on the other side of Tiber. We need you to go. And you can go with your team to go extract it because they needed a small team of people to do it rather than a whole fleet. And if you tried to do it without the mission, you would just get fucked over by the UEE, or just someone would just shoot you, or you would just die. Like not necessarily impossible.
People trying to do that same mission or something like that.
Yeah. So you can only get that one mission at a time, and those and you like similar to some of the missions that are going to go right now. Is once you accepted it in that server, it's gone. It could just be a timed thing, or they have a certain number of them at a time. So you may have groups of like 6 or 7 crew, each with their own missions going through Tiber, but they're not going to intersect each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that'd be more likely. Yeah, someone could show up in a Hammerhead and just wreck everybody, but getting a Hammerhead through the entirety of the UEE fleet would probably be dangerous.
I think I like the idea of just having instance missions for people who really, because as someone who enjoys both PvP and PvE, some days you just don't want to have to deal with other people.
Yeah,
you just want to have a nice little chunk of gaming content, maybe a couple potato chips of gaming content to consume that night because you're just not feeling up to it. Not every day is your go day.
Exactly. I'm all about the living, breathing universe. Believe me, I want that thing to develop organically, just like Eve, mixed with all the other things we love about the game. But I also think that I would love the opportunity to like get a clue or a quest drop or something and be like, hey, this is going to be cool. This is sort of a story-driven thing, but I can't do it by myself. I need to get together a crew to do it, and then you can go do it. Maybe on the way there's interdiction possibilities, but eventually once you get to it, it gives CIG the opportunity to give you this incredible mini Squadron 42 experience as they continue to add that type of content into the PU.
Yeah.
And they've actually talked about this. They were talking about how co-op changes Squadron 42 and how that was one of the considerations why they pulled co-op out of Squadron 42. Like it changes, like having one of your buddies in there making fart jokes in the briefing room while you have them arguing about Mark Hamill and what's his name, Onion Knight, arguing over, oh, we got this Vandal fleet coming in, we have to hold the line, men's, and your dude's farting in his microphone.
Yeah,
changing the tone of the scene entirely.
I think there's a way of doing that without removing the risk of PvP. I think that is just making the NPCs be overwhelmingly fuck off, like Concord from Eve. Basically,
there was a
you can fight them. You'll die and you'll lose, but you can try. There's a possibility you can slip through that jump point before all these other ships, which are authorized to slip through that jump point, can do it. But it's low, so you still have the fear, but you don't have the. It's not uncertain that you're going to be alone, but at the same time, the likelihood is much higher that you're only going to have to worry about these things in front of you. I think that would be a better way of doing it.
Where would be the risky part of the PvP aspect? Then once you get there, you can be like, okay, now we do this story.
Yeah. There was a video on Reddit of somebody triggering, because the 335 Hertzton is actually in Evocati, and there was a leak today. I don't know if the NDA is up for that for 335, but
it's NDA still up there.
Not a leak.
Okay.
Just lift the fucking NDA at this point.
I know. Someone leaked one of the Evocati members triggering the entirety of Hertzton's security forces at Lorville, and they had like 20 NPCs opening up on one dude just running around, not hurting the guy, but you just had all these NPCs just laying into the sky with gunfire. So it's going to be kind of risky if you want to fuck around, if you want to be a jackass at Orville. Like you're probably not going to live very long, as it should be.
That's
once they remove armistice zones, yeah.
In that is you're gonna die. Like you will do this, and you can probably game the system so you can get to the point where you're gonna kill who you want to kill, like in high sec. Finding the big why am I stupid haulers? Jump freighters, right? Finding the jump freighters in ISAC, bumping them off the gate, and then blowing them up with bombers. Sure, you're gonna do it. You're gonna sacrifice a shit ton to do it, though. Mm-hmm. And if Star Citizen really makes the death of the spaceman thing really worthwhile, it's gonna be even more punishing than doing something like that in EVE Online.
Yeah.
So that's how it should be. It's fake. Like, oh, my gun just stops firing all of a sudden. Really? Because I'm in an armistice zone. What the hell is that?
Yeah. Alrighty. Moving on to the next question. Who asks? We have actually only a few more real complicated questions. A lot of these are just troll questions. From Firefly, who asks, "What do you think of the move to bring all the moderation internal to employees instead of volunteers?" He's asking for like Spectrum and in general.
Yeah, Spectrum volunteer moderators are being. I don't know if they're gonna offer the volunteer mods professional positions. They're gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna start paying you now." Or
they might. I mean, it makes sense. You're getting to the size of a community and the size of a game where you're going to start needing GMs. People who are going to be in the game.
People who are going to actually be responding to what the customer service complaints now, like someone stream sniping you, or they're just bullying you constantly killing you over and over and again to the point where they're harassing you, or they're actively cheating or botting in the game, like every other MMO has. You're gonna need to have a game master, receive that complaint, respond to that complaint, and deal with that complaint. At some point in Star Citizen.
Agree. As we approach, as we get closer to launch of Star Citizen or of Squadron 42, and then
December 2019, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I think if as we get closer to that, they've got to start laying the groundwork for customer service and for the ability to both handle problems and put out publicity that they want to put out and manage that type of that format. I think it's a great sign, honestly. I think, again, you read between the lines on a lot of these things. It starts to give credence to. We're starting to get closer. They're starting to lay the groundwork for things that come with a game release. I think it's exciting.
One of my former mods, Knight Rider, is now working for CIG as a professional moderator. So, I think it's a good thing. But the one big thing I will say is a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to make it white knighty. It's already super white knighty in Spectrum.
It's already super hugbuxy in Spectrum. So this could be a good move. It could be a bad move. I'm just going to wait and see. I already do not desire to. I really don't desire to participate in Spectrum. I prefer Reddit.
I do. I prefer Reddit as a news. Like if there's something big that happened in Star Citizen, it'll probably end up on Reddit. Yeah. But I just don't like Spectrum very much. The format and everything else like this is kind of weird.
I know.
Yeah, I mean the biggest problem that CIG is going to have with these volunteer mods is that CIG has to take this side of their mod. They can't just openly publicly go against a mod, even if a mod kind of went off on their own, right? And there's a little bit of liability there when those mods aren't even actual contractors or employees for CIG. I think it's also on top of a customer service and maybe prepping for Squadron 42 in this. I think it's a liability thing too. Like it's just you need them in house. You need them as actual employees. So,
you do, and it creates a common standard. So instead of a moderator telling a user to go suck their balls and then banning that user, and then that user telling them that they fucked their mother, and then the moderator banning the user and being like he was using harsh language. Now that shit's going to get investigated and you joke, but I mean, I've seen those interactions between moderators and players before. And
I've seen
the player gets banned
on
and
official forums.
Yeah.
Not something you want to see in an official forum.
No. And,
level of professionalism once you get to a point where you have an official product that is, going to be played and sold to millions,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important.
You have to grow up. You have to move on from your old volunteer mod core to an in-house professional core.
And that also goes on the difference in tone between the earlier days in Star Citizen, back when we were a plucky startup company and they were making blow up doll jokes on ATV and Wingman's hangar, to what we have today, where it's this like it's more professional, more cut, and the language has definitely changed. The level of interactions between the development house and publishing that CIG does, and as an extension, what's happening on Spectrum needs to change as well. So I think this is a good thing for the overall optics of the company to bring the modding in-house and have them actual paid employees to moderate Spectrum. I think it'll help change the tone and the interaction, potentially for a positive way. But it's also, it can go the other way where they go even more hug box and they start to really clamp down any sort of criticism as FUD. Like, no, you're spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt by raising this criticism over LTI war bonds. We're going to ban you. That could be a thing still. It's going to be definitely wait and see before I really weigh in on it.
There's no shortage of platforms on the internet for people to congregate around and be as trolly or toxic as they want to be. I think having having the official platform be even if you want to say they're wielding it for marketing or whatever, it's still fine, because I mean that's they need that tool, and B, you can go find somewhere on Reddit to say all the things you can't say anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right.
Or you can just join a podcast, or you can just join a Star Citizen.
Yeah, you can just join Cyberpunk podcast. We talk for 4 fucking hours about nothing. Anyways, moving on. Next question comes from Mayonnaise015, who asks, at Texas Skulls, why is Texas the best state in the world?
Just is, man.
They have the best barbecue.
Yes.
God, it just is. It's one of those things. It is known. I've been watching Game of Thrones recently. It is known.
It is known.
Most successful football teams ever.
The Dallas motherfucking Cowboys.
Especially our
not anymore.
Especially our UT, because we're so successful at football there, UT. So successful.
Listen, I'll find it. I'll make you pay for all these statements, but you just do you, man. You do you.
Oh,
down, sucker.
Next question comes from Zwajo, ZWAJO. I think I've seen that name before, but I don't know if I'm saying that name right. Who asks, is there any more news on ships progression? I.e., it's the grind to do X best in slot, or if they're trying to hold one ship. Trying to hold one ship is your ship. I think he's talking about grinding to a certain ship. Is there a certain ship you want to grind towards first? Is there a kind of progression? There is ships in game in 3.3 that you can purchase in game.
Yeah,
but there's no meta right now in terms of what ships are best in those ships.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a linear progression of ships. I mean, once you graduate from your starter ships, ships start to become very specialized. Even the ships that kind of do multiple things tend to be pretty specifically in that realm of doing multiple things, and there's a pretty big jump. You go from like your starter ships, you decide what you want to do in game. The next ship you decide what you want to do in game may be a hell of a grind to get to. If you're talking about just once the game launches, grinding to buy it in game, it could be a hell of a grind to get to that ship. Even at a medium size or a slightly bigger than starter size. I think the focus seems to me to make sure that there are outlets for all the different professions and ways people want to play the game, more than a progression of loot, that type of thing.
I mean, there's definitely progression within the single seat fighters, though. I mean, just single seat kind of solo ships. I mean, from the Aurora going all the way up to Super Hornet and Saber, F8, Lightning, things like that. That's certainly a progression. And for the cargo haulers, there's a progression there as well. You start out with the Cutlass if you want, move on to a Max eventually, and Caterpillar.
Once you start upgrading, though, you start having different requirements for the ships, and
you do. And perhaps those requirements are more than one player, and so you're jumping out of solo territory now. Another thing that bugged me is people look at the Hammerhead and saw that preliminary price, right, of like what, 20 million or whatever the hell it was,
something like that.
And everyone thinks that it's a target for like a single player to grind to that and buy that. I'm like, no, that's more of a target for like an org. Like an org is meant to save up for that and buy it, right? Same with like the Titans in EVE Online. It wasn't that a single person was supposed to be able to grind that money, you know, doing some fucking mining and then buy a Titan. It's that an organization together would finance.
I mean, you can do it.
You can.
Like a Herculean effort on your part to do it, but it's just
or a lot of real life dollars.
Yeah,
That's a good point, though.
I view the Hammerhead as org level raid gear. Like this is what you're gonna need if you want to take on a Vanduul. Blah 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 blah. This Vanduul mission or this pirate mission is gonna be like 5 skulls, and you better come with some firepower. Like,
ahead,
come with like 3 hornets.
You have a good point. It depends on the profession. I guess the more accurate answer would be that there, depending on what you do, whether if it's fighter or freight, you actually do have a pretty decent sort of progression in size and scope of your ship and your ship's crew and how to get those things. Some professions, on the other hand, you go from starter ship if you want to go straight into that profession. There's sort of a barrier to that.
Yeah, like mining, for example, it's a Prospector or Orion. Although I have a feeling CIG will come out with a whole slew of mid-level and starter-level profession ships eventually.
I've said I want to see CIG produce industrial ships or vocational ships from other manufacturers that somewhat mirror other, like the Prospector.
Where's the Drake? Version. Where's the Drake version of the mining ship? Drake screams mining. You know.
There you go.
Just
listen.
Even if it's just a cutlass with a big fuck off laser on the front of it, you know, there we go. It's
attack with a gun.
Yeah,
I'm not supposed to say this. Okay, I'm under NDA, but as a streamer, CIG shows us all their ship pipeline for the next 4 years. They have many new starter profession ships and at least 5 mining ships that are stepped between the starter mining ship. It's not the Prospectors. Prospectors like the second tier, between the starter and the Orion. So it's, look, I wasn't supposed to share that, but they've got a slew of ships in the pipeline.
So you'll have something like Aurora sized, you'll have something Connie sized, you'll have something
okay. Just so we don't get into a lot of people, just so that people don't get actually like serious. He does not have no fucking idea. He's just fucking with all of you.
Texas, no. Texas Skulls _ CIG
says
confirmed.
That. Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Please do go confirm all of that to CIG.
There's a Connie sized, and Reddit. A Connie sized mining ship coming soon to Star Citizen. Make sure you tweet at Disco Lando. Make sure you clip this out and you
send it to Disco Lando. I'm sure he'll have.
Kraken is actually supposed to be modular, where you can swap a couple modules, take off the landing pads, and turn it into a salvager or a miner.
And I hear you can modulate. I hear it has a modular cargo bay for stripper poles in it. You can actually set up a strip club, and then it's going to have speakers. You can replace the top landing pads with giant speakers, and you can blast out dubstep.
Which oddly enough is also just as much as a deterrent to piracy, because the original Kraken as designed will scare away the pirates or blow them up. The new Kraken will pull them in. They'll say, why fight when I can go to the strip club?
Oh, I thought you meant that pirates have an aversion to EDM.
No, they're drawn.
I'm not entirely sure.
Don't drop the bass. No. I can't drop the bass. Yar.
Something I didn't know about it, but
dual step. Wow.
All right.
Dual step. Oh god.
Next question. But there's also I was gonna say, to finish off this topic, there's also a possibility that you can spend the same money to upgrade your ship to become a better ship. If you have a ship like an Avenger or something like that already.
Well, that's the case now. Components can be expensive, and a ship that has been fully modified away from its base bullshit components to upgraded ones performs wholly different.
Yeah, big deal.
So yeah.
Well, what's the point if you're just doing cargo runs in your Caterpillar? What's the point of upgrading like the power plant?
Speed and acceleration, deceleration. I can tell you the most timely. Exactly. Quantum drive, more fuel efficient or faster or this or that. Look, I mean, you're talking to the guy who literally times trade runs to the fucking millisecond for the app, right? And Caterpillar is slow as fuck. I have to start decelerating at like 25,000 meters, right? And if I didn't have to do that, if I had better engines and an upgraded power plant where I can just literally fucking, bolt my way through the atmosphere and come crashing down the landing pad, yep, I would do it. It would save me time.
Yeah, I think they're trying to add to that granularity, that ability to not just have to buy ships or go for one ship. There's a lot of things you can upgrade within the ship. There's a lot of, I'm all about modules. I'm not so much about variants. I think variants water down the overall ship ecosystem, but I think modules within ships to slightly adjust how they do what they do, and something that you can grind for that's maybe achievable, more so than like an entirely brand new ship, is a good idea. And I think they'll have a lot of that type of stuff. Components,
100% agree,
etc.
And hey, the best thing that CIG can ultimately get to is a point where players are having to ask themselves a question: do I buy a new ship with these funds and kind of move chassis, or do I upgrade the components on my current ship? Right? If there's an actual hard decision there, then I think CIG's done very well.
Agree. Yeah.
And I think that was the main thrust of the question: is there a path to upgrade, or should I just upgrade, or should I just progress to with ships, or just upgrade? And I think the answer is we don't really have that yet in either sense, but we do. Well, there is definitely, they have it in place. It's ready.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost quite there.
With weapons, if you've got the resources like currently, like we're talking about now that we're all broke AF now again, the path to a stronger fighter isn't necessarily trying to buy a new fighter. It's really just trying to get to a point where you can upgrade your guns, and that can change the character of that,
or
the
a
time
different type of guns too.
Fighter.
Naturally, the biggest blocker to that right now is not having component insurance, but there's a workaround at least where you strip it in your hangar or something, and then
Next question comes from Guns and Glue, who asks, when mod support is added, I'm going to skip that one because we're kind of getting late. He's just asking what would you add? What would you mod in? And that usually ends up a long term question. I'm going to skip that one because it's talking about
we're years away from modding anyways.
Yeah, we're talking. The next question is asking about HC Vertigo's spacesuit he was designing earlier in the cast, and I don't want to talk more in detail about that.
We need to go back over that.
No.
Can we just move on?
Yeah. Next question comes from Fastcard, who asks, are you surprised 3.3.5 went to Evocati less than 18 hours from 3.3 going live? NDA. That's all I'm going to say.
A little yes for me. I'm yes and no, just a tiny bit, just a bit surprised, but not very much.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, just because it seemed like it went off without too much of a hitch during gameplay demo, and most of the things that you're experiencing there right now are not quests. It's just like things moving around, people walking around. I kind of
I'm not surprised, because I have a feeling that 3.3.5 being ready for Evocati was the driver behind releasing 3.3 to live, to get it off the PTU, to open it for Hurston 3.3.5.
Yeah, I think 3.3.5, or at least Hurston, was originally supposed to come out at CitizenCon. I think they wanted to be able to drop
both
that
of them.
as well.
Yeah, 3.3 was supposed to entirely come out. Yeah,
slice this off, put it into a half patch. So that means that it was already close. They just needed to dial it in.
It was OCS. OCS is the big thing that they had the issue with, and they had to dial in the object container streaming and make sure it worked, and it took them longer than they thought. So,
yeah.
Next question comes from Firescard, who asks, today is the 10th of November, literally a month since CitizenCon. Have you recovered from CitizenCon blues yet? Have you watched all of the panels on YouTube? I've not actually watched all the panels. Have you guys watched all the panels?
No, I haven't.
No.
I didn't watch. I streamed the whole thing, so I watched all the main stage, and I've watched a couple of the second stage ones, but no, not 100% of them.
I mean, being flat out honest, there's a lot of the panels are just things I don't care about. No, sorry, Paul. I don't like lore, and I don't care for it at all.
Of the panels,
I love the lore panel, but only because it has a lot of information that I'm going to turn into a much shorter video.
Yeah.
Until they change everything and your video becomes outdated.
And so because they've already changed stuff. That video has a lot of stuff that's changed from the actual lore that they have published before about the Hurston family. So there's a lot more details and other things. So
some of the panels are really good. And
sorry,
go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Snake.
One of the One of the panels was literally them building the knife and the.
It was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think that the one thing that is, again, I always like to kind of read between the lines on things. And one of the things I think is super valuable about watching at least a couple of panels for a lot of people, especially people that like to come in and be like, hey, this game is never going to happen. People, they're just trying to, scam everybody and stuff like that. Obviously, that's very old news, but some people still think that's going on. Watch these panels. I mean, just from a perspective of game dev, I mean, watch these cats and how hard they are working on this core technology and how hard they are working on asset creation and all this stuff. I mean, these guys are not going to work every day and playing ping pong and like counting their money. They're busting their asses on this shit, and they're really smart dudes that are, men and women that are behind the curtain on this stuff, and it's super fun to watch kind of all that. We think we're passionate about this stuff, and as content creators putting a lot of effort into it on our end. Just look at these devs in this and the effort they go to, the lengths they go to get this stuff to work, man.
Just to get an idea.
Yeah, man. Joke's on you, bud, because everyone that hosted a panel was an actor, and you see videos of their studios; those are also paid actors. I'm just saying. Joke's on you, man.
The views of Texas Skulls don't necessarily align with the views of the Astropub. I was going to say one of the great things, if you really want to get a kind of a context for what this team is, a lot of this team comes from the original Crysis team, who made the original Crysis CryEngine. And there's a video on YouTube. I think it was by the Gamers Network or something like that. He does a lot of videos on video game history and such. And the documentary they did on Crysis and Far Cry and kind of the story of Crytek was very fascinating because it completely puts in perspective that these guys are insane. These guys love to make stuff, if that makes sense. They love to make games and they love to make engines. These are the kind of guys who dream about how to make particle physics work better. These guys they eat, breathe, and sweat game development. A lot of them are, and they do this for fun if they weren't being paid for it. So that's pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah, you guys remember when they brought Tupac back and he was like that hologram?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually what Xylo is. Xylo is just a hologram this entire time.
All right, next one. Vertigo's leaving. No.
No. Just getting the last bit of coffee.
Next question comes from Jay Calvin, who asks, with a new flight model, how would you redo time to kill to make disabling and boarding an escape pods possible? There was really
Tough one.
just I don't know.
Well, they have a specific hard-coded explosion parameter in the game, right? Ships explode right now. What they need is, again, fully fleshed out item 2.0 system to where literally your power plant will, fucking be disabled. It will blow up and no longer be functional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for all intents and purposes, sure, I can keep putting bullets through the hull of your ship and it's just going to, continue to wreck the hull of your ship. But there's no big boom unless the right chain of events happens.
Yeah,
that's
unless you
when
hit
the explosion.
Unless you hit the power core and the power core
to be fair,
explodes.
Yeah.
To be fair, everything if we actually want to board disabled ships, and bounty hunting, mercenary work, that kind of stuff is possible with current game. It would take a little bit of polishing and kind of wizardry behind the scene, but we have the ability to disable ships because you can turn your ship on and off. All it takes with the EMP, you can disable a ship. We really need the ability to arrest momentum, tractor beam something, to lasso the ship and just slow it down.
Slow down momentum or maintain your momentum while EVAing. So if the ship is going,
I was going to go there.
Either or, man. Yeah.
From my understanding, it is impossible to get a decoupled EVA, so you can maintain that.
Yeah, they'll have to come up with some middling mechanics because
something to physics. Because when your character gets pushed around, you actually With
Yeah.
CryEngine, there's a velocity limit for EVA. The physics system just loses its shit at some velocity, and they said they can't overcome that part. Of the
So
engine.
what'll happen? I think it's going to have to be the solution's going to have to be fake, right? It's not going to follow the laws of physics. I honestly think the best bet is that they just say, all right, can you no longer maneuver, right? Then just slowly bring your ship to a stop. I mean,
yeah,
maybe that's not the actual solution, but whatever it is, it's going to have to be faked because
I would
in
like to
reality,
see- I
your
would
ship's
like
going
to
to keep going.
I don't think you'll
beam.
be able to like
be
snipe
abused.
engines out. I just don't think that's going to be reality. I think.
Well, you
I think
can
they'll
on the Constellation. You can blow up the main engines. The nacelles.
Yeah,
theory,
so on the larger ships, that's
but-
my plan of attack. Is I always try and go for the engines right away.
Yeah, maybe, but because of the dynamic between shooting through shields or which side of the shields you're shooting through, I think it's going to be hard to dial that in. I think it would be easier for them to create boarding as a like sub activity, and you'll need either EMP torpedoes, which like maybe it's not as strong as a bigger EMP. Like the EMP duration is shorter. You have 10 seconds once it hits to get onto that ship and try to board it before it gets its systems back or something like that. And it'll make it some kind of game loop where it's still a challenge, but it's possible. And
But
they don't have
anyways,
to change all the ships.
It is possible within the current engine to disable the ship, but then you need to find some way to arrest the ship's momentum so you can board it. They have the ability to blow open doors with enough damage. You can just start shooting airlock doors, and any egress point that any player can already use can be blown open with weapons fire. You just got to get the shields down, get damage to hit the door, and then you're inside. And then
You know what else I like, by the way, from Helion, where like when you got next to something, you could press T and it would like grab you and grab onto it and stabilize your player. That would be helpful for boarding for
Yes.
EVA
Boarding,
transfers.
like if you EVA it over and you hit the skid of the ship and you held the button, you just be like stuck under the ship.
Or
like,
it's
like
a piece of kit.
yeah.
It'll take up like one of your auxiliary slots, like a med pen. Only it's like a thing that all your guys on your cut list need to have this equipped. And if you can manage,
you hit V instead of getting a little health button, you go poof, and you just like
jump
stuck into
out
the.
and give you a chance to
Well,
lock
they've already
on.
said that EVA, they're going to be using the EVA thrusters to simulate gravity for your character. They're going to have your thrusters just constantly pushing down on your character. And that's going to allow you to walk around on the surface of an asteroid.
My problem with the tractor beam approach is that means that that's an item that I'm going to have to put on every single ship, right?
And
if
not
I
all,
ever
not all
want to
ships
board.
can equip utility, though. Yeah.
Well, hang on. Yeah.
That's no
And so,
problem.
well, let's just say that a dogfighter could equip a tractor beam, right? So what that tells me is that unless I'm actually equipping a tractor beam or whatever onto every single ship, I'm going to choose to blow up a ship over disabling it unless I have a tractor beam, and it's not going to accomplish what they want in where most people aren't blowing up a ship.
If you're in a fighter, your job is probably not to disable a ship unless you're specifically trying to disable that ship, because you're probably not going to be able to board that ship and either take the sweet booty or take the sweet.
I love me the booty.
Maybe disabling it isn't the answer. Maybe it would be more intense if they created just a mechanic or module that you can put in a ship that's designed to that you would want to use for boarding, and it allows you to match velocities, and it's sort of like a reverse tractor beam where you activate this thing and it doesn't stop the other ship. So there's still this like timer, right? That ship is going somewhere, and maybe when it gets there, maybe it's gonna get help either from lawful forces or its friends. So you got a ticking clock on when you can tether to that guy, get on top of him, and then breach and disable it from inside the ship to take all the stuff. Like maybe that would be the answer.
Well, we also have EWAR coming up, a gameplay loop for EWAR. I don't know anything about that, but that may be able to cause a ship malfunction to slow it down or stop
slow it
its
down or
momentum.
prevent it from going
Quantum
the same
drive,
piece. I mean, they've talked about basically hacker missiles, which are missiles which you fire, and then when it gets lodged into a ship, it'll release a virus or something like that, which will allow another player to take over that ship remotely.
I think there's I think that there's plenty of reason, by the way, for a single seat fighter to disable instead of kill. I mean, first off, if you disable, you can ping them and say, 5,000 UEC or I kill you, right? You can tell your buddies who, your buddy back on the moon that's, a couple million kilometers away with the salvager, hey, there's a disabled ship, have at it, right? I think I can come up with more and more scenarios. There's plenty of reason to, and CIG wants to promote disable over kill.
Yep.
That's what they've said all along. And if you require a tractor beam for any sort of disable operation, then you're basically
No. You're not going to need a tractor beam to disable a ship. You can actually disable ships right now with.
You're going to need a tractor beam
commands.
to make it even worthwhile. Like otherwise,
Yes.
it's worthless. If a
It's
ship's
going
going
to
to
be
continue floating off,
required
there's no
beam, yeah.
reason. Yeah, I'm going to kill you. Done.
All right. Moving
gonna
on
die.
because it's getting late, but we do have a couple more questions left.
Right.
I'm going to start at the very bottom because there's some of the people. Firefly asks, "Can you mute the individual people in VoIP?" Yes, I think
No.
you can.
Not to my knowledge. You have
If
to
you-
turn
if-
VoIP off right now.
If you go into the general channel
Contacts.
and you look at in the general channel,
Right.
it'll actually have the contacts or the members of it. I think you can right click and mute. And you may not be able to though. That may be something that
Last I checked, you couldn't do that, but I'll check next time I get into
Okay.
3.3. Maybe after we're done with the podcast, I'll check.
So it may not be able to. Otherwise, you can mute all of that, or you can go into like party chat or something like that.
Well, let's forget what you can or can't do right now. I have about zero doubt in my mind that you will be able to
Yeah.
mute people
In the future.
later.
I've muted it before, at least I think in the last PTU I muted because they were talking all over the place. So.
Next question comes from Butt Chomp, who asks, "What is the upcoming mining improvements coming in 3.4?" Probably just dialing in mining, making sure it works well, giving you more options. I don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't really talked about it. They'll talk a little bit about more of it when they get closer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know what the hilarious part about mining is right now? Is that, they changed to this dynamic composition system where if a rock is 5% greasium, 10% copper, and then the rest is inert materials, when you break it, it doesn't necessarily hold that same
It shuffles the
composition, right?
percent. Yeah, it shuffles the percentages around. You can actually have a chunk
Great.
that ends up with 50% agresium.
Yep, and I love that system, but it actually creates higher concentration than the original. So I added it all up, and you can end up with like 50% copper, even though the original rock only had 10%.
10%.
By mass, yeah, and also the mass is increased too. So like if the original rock is 4,000, the sum of the parts may be like 5,000. It's kind of shitty, actually.
By the way, Calexis is saying there's no mute button in 3.3 live. You can mute all of VoIP, but you apparently can't mute individuals. So
Yeah. That's what we need. We need individual mutes because some people are just going to be jackasses and plugging their stereo mixer into a YouTube video of just someone screeching.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen.
Next question comes from Brishana, who asks, "Since CIG is moving to paid mods, do you think they should clearly state for banned accounts to have a process for your account to be reviewed under review guidelines and processes?" Yeah, I mean would be my first job if I was being paid to be a head mod, would be to have a process for everything, and anything I can think of would be important. Just because you want to make sure you're fair and consistent, but that's just my experience as a teacher is if you don't have rules, if you don't have guidelines, if you don't have norms with the people you work with, or even because being a moderator, I feel is like a lot like teaching, because you have to deal with a bunch of screaming assholes who don't know anything or don't know any better. So a lot of it is being patient, being understanding, and having a process that's fair and even-handed. And I'm assuming I'm sure they'll do something like that. At least I'd hope they do something like that, because there's been a lot of bans out there that were like 400 years because someone called them a poopy face,
Yeah.
So, Sagewise asks, "Do you think they'll be able to have some way assign our ship to stay online? I'd like my ship to stay online and work when I log off." No, that's not gonna happen.
You're gonna have to be on your ship online. You may be able to loan your ship in the future to someone else and then go offline. Log out on your bed and log back in. Have one of your org mates still working your ship. Maybe having like a rotational ship. Maybe somebody who's in the Oceania time zone, and then somebody who's in the Europe time zone, and then you just pass that ship off to those three people. People just take turns captaining your Caterpillar. Or maybe you have a flying, a driving team. In America, we have driving teams. We have regulations on how long you can be on active duty driving a semi truck, a tractor trailer across the country. And you'll have people working in pairs to one person drives for 12 hours, another person drives for 12 hours, and they just keep changing off until they reach their destination. And that the engine in that truck never gets cold because they're just constantly moving.
Let me ask the real question. Is it going to be illegal to fly drunk? And how
That's a good
CIG plan
question.
on stopping me?
Well, in IRL drunk, yes, probably you'll probably get some crime stat if you bump into somebody or have get a little too frisky on the landing pad. In game, like if your character's in drunk in game, I don't know if they're gonna make you pull you over and have you take a breathalyzer test.
No, I mean IRL.
I mean,
Like,
IRL.
If I'm sitting
stop
here
me.
drunk
I
right
mean-
now,
I mean,
Paul
the
made
level-
the next greatest drink.
I mean the
Gonna
level
do
of
that.
the level of fidelity we can have here, you know, the advocacy pulls you over and they're like, you know, we could take care of this, you know, and you have to pay a bush bond. I don't know if anybody knows what a bush bond is.
Yeah,
Let me
it's-
blow your mind here, okay? Through FOIP, their algorithm will be able to determine whether or not a player is drunk IRL through your facial interactions. They'll watch your eyes, and if your eyes react slowly, they know that you're going to be drunk. flying.
Likely.
So they're basically going to prevent me from playing Star Citizen because I'm just too stupid, is what you're saying, Texas Skulls. Like we have
Yes.
determined your IQ is too low. Like God
No, what they're
goodness.
going to do is see that you're wearing flannel, and they're going to ban you from the game. You will not be like, you know how like if you get a DWI or something, they give people those like
Driving
breathalyzer
while
things you have to like
flannel-
blow
driving
into
while
your
flannel.
car to make sure you're sober.
Yeah.
They're going to
Flannel.
take a picture from FOIP and say, nope, you're wearing flannel, you can't log in.
Oh my
Flannel
god.
allotment exceeded.
Exactly.
They just
So-
they just need to find some way to identify someone's IP address where they are in the world. And if it's like Texas, nope, you're Texas. You're not allowed
Yeah.
to play Star Citizen.
Uh,
If you guys ever expect serious comments out of me, then you're in the wrong spot.
Welcome
I
to
expect
banter.
I expect lots of complaints from you, especially when it involves anyone dealing with the trade app, which is currently broken. Texas Skulls. Did you know that the trade app is currently broken?
Do you know your
You
trade app's down,
understand
burst
that-
mate down?
You understand what my plan is for the next 12 hours. I'm probably not sleeping.
Not sleeping, but
I'm just
fixing
working
the
on
trade app. Yeah.
Well, I expect him to keep slamming the recompile button for the next 12 hours, and maybe he'll get lucky.
Recompile, failed, try again.
But as Silo did say in chat, he said there is a process currently for unbanning, which is you have to message. What did he say? He said it was message, submit a
Customer
support
service,
ticket,
yeah.
a support
Yeah,
ticket
customer
to
support.
first consideration. So,
Yeah.
so you can. So there is a process involved, but it involves that. Now, as in terms of review, I don't know if they'll automatically review everyone's bans.
From,
I
from
doubt
my
it.
understanding,
I doubt it.
from my understanding, they will at least look at it. But there is a backlog of customer service tickets, so do
Yeah.
not expect a rapid response from CIG. If
It
you do
takes-
submit a customer service ticket.
It takes, in some cases, it can take up to a couple of weeks, if not a month. Though they have hired a lot of new people, so they could have to drop those decreases a little bit or drop those amounts a
Yeah.
little bit. Next question, but yeah, Sagewise, the main question you're saying about like having your ship stay online, they specifically talked about how they don't want X style gameplay, which is being able to automate processes. They don't like automated processes. Even this week, they talked about how they're not really planning on allowing players to move unless they're in game.
Yeah,
So
I was
run.
no.
Yeah.
Auto fly. You could fly. You could auto fly. You can put your ship in a direction and go, but you're most likely going to get pirate surprised every so often, and you may get your ship blown up if you decide to AFK move
Yeah.
around the verse. So there's going to be systems to prevent you from doing autopilot stuff.
They're also
would
going to need
be
to
a way for AFK.
cull. They're going to have to cull you somehow. So like they can't have all these ships, the 2 million plus ships, floating around without owners while they're offline, but their ships are still online because that'll
Yeah,
just cause
I
absolute.
I mean, even
havoc
though we
technically.
have the client side blind object container streaming and network bind culling, they still don't want to have to deal with your bullshit, the polygons on the server
Yeah.
side. So there's going to have to be some method to you've been standing in the same spot for the past 5 hours inside your ship. We're just gonna disconnect you from the server. We're just gonna kick you off.
There may be
Because we don't
timers
have to
that
do-
they'll be able to enact, like if you need maintenance and let's say the maintenance requires a week or something like that, maybe you can it'll work on that while you're offline, but it won't have your.
Well, that's how insurance works, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to definitely utilize offline timers for certain things, like waiting on insurance, waiting on maintenance. But as far as
they've said a lot
automating
of
travel and things,
Yeah. A lot of the timers will be real-time timers. So if you're offline, those timers will keep ticking.
Yeah. I also heard that the insurance that we got with our packages has started ticking as of the 3.3 release. Okay,
Yes,
I'm done. I'm
Texas-
sorry. I'm
Stop
sorry.
it.
I'm sorry. I'm
Stop
sorry.
it.
CIG has just confirmed.
I'm sorry.
So bad.
Because the road to release is now. Therefore, since Star Citizen is now a
Now.
game, and we're just going to keep patching it, the insurance timers have started as soon as Chris Roberts
Sorry.
dropped that controller
Yeah.
at CitizenCon, that is exactly the moment that your insurance started ticking down. That was the mic drop.
HC Vertigo _CIG confirmed. The worst part is that like Xylo's here. I'm sure there's like some other members of CIG in here being like, who the fuck are these jackasses? What the hell are they talking about?
Everybody
I'm
tweet
sorry,
at
guys.
Gold if you need access to his app.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Also being one of the key founding members of the captain's table, there is also a raffle going on today for a Polaris.
Oh Jesus!
Type
No.
exclamation Polaris in the stream chat.
There used to be an auto. I used to have an auto message where if you hit exclamation point whatever, the bot would ban you to try to catch bots, like giveaway bots, and I wish that would be, because that would be my auto ban is exclamation point Polaris, because then just to catch people like that. Oh. Never mind.
It's happening. It's happening. I feel just a tiny bit guilty, but don't worry, I have a pillow to smother that guilty sensation. In my turn.
Next question comes from Mad Rambo, who asks, will we ever be able to hide our names in game? Then we have to hack deep scan. Yeah, you can. You don't actually see people's names unless you do deep scans.
You have to scan them. You have to scan their ship and scan them, but you don't have any on-foot scanning. But you can actually see who's connected to the server, believe it or not, in the F11 menu. You can go look at who's connected. All 50 people.
But the thing is that in terms of where they are, you won't necessarily know. And I think right now the passive scans are what needs to be changed. And that's one of those things where right now, because they've done the pinging system, they're going to go back and rework the passive scans and how much information it is. Because even the deep in-depth scan will tell you who's on the ship, what the health status of the ship is, who owns the ship, all the details behind that ship's ping. So
it'll show you the pilot, the owner, the cargo, and the ship's health.
Yeah. So
right now.
And the passive will just give you the name of the player who's flying it. But I think in the future you won't have that. You'll probably have to ping to get that information. All you know is if it's a friendly or a hostile based off its transponder. Next question comes from the prisoner, who asks, do you think Death of a Spaceman, the permadeath mechanic in the game, will survive? I've watched other streamers and viewers think that the concept won't be around at release.
They will massage it based on the concept of fun. Everything that CIG has said before 2015 is up in the air. Mm-hmm. And we have not run across the need for the permadeath mechanic in the game, because there's so much other stuff that's a higher priority that needs to be worked on for Star Citizen. So many other features like OCS was a big deal, and procedural planets, that we need that before we need Death of a Spaceman. So there's so much other stuff that needs to come before Death of a Spaceman. But once we get to the point where Death of a Spaceman gets implemented in the game, I don't think it will. That 2012, I think it was, that 2012 document that Chris Roberts put out, I don't think that will survive into a more modern Star Citizen in its entirety. They will massage and adjust things for the sake of fun.
Yeah.
And my favorite point to that
fun mechanic.
Yeah. What's that, Executor?
It's a horrible business model and a horrible fun
mechanic.
Yeah. My favorite part to this was that, if you ever peruse Reddit, you see people will be like, well, Chris said this, not specifically about Death of a Spaceman, but just anything. They're like, well, Chris said exactly this quote on a 10 for the Chairman back, 3 years ago, and then take it to heart as if it's canon. And I'm like,
one of my favorite comments is from Disco Lando, because someone asked Disco Lando very specifically on an RTV a while ago about Tavaran Kung Fu and when was that going to be added to the game. And he was like, we're not adding Kung Fu to the game. And everyone said, but Chris said in this minute on this 10 for the Chairman that's one of the things they wanted to add.
VR Kung Fu, goddammit.
And Disco Lando said, 10 for the Chairman isn't a statement of purpose. It's not like everything he says there is going to be in the game. It's the idea is that he probably was just saying that might be a good idea in the future. It's not an official statement of the development. It's not a roadmap. Whatever comes.
It's more of a wish list, really.
Yeah.
What Chris Roberts would like to have.
More like guidelines than rules, laws.
It's like the speed limit. It's more of a suggestion.
Mm-hmm. And so at the same time, there's as much as Chris says something, the realities will change the reality of whatever it is. And I don't doubt that Chris will probably want Tavarin Kung Fu at some point because he's Chris. But I think when push comes to shove, I'd at least hope when he sits down and says, when are we putting Tavarin Kung Fu in the game, his producers and his game developers go, what? No, later. We're doing this now, kind of thing. So, and they tend to be on that. We're a lot different than we were in Squadron and Ten for the Chairman.
You want the visionary aspect of your organization to be absolutely winging it, because that level of creativity is what comes up with ideas. And what's unique about Chris is that he's got a background in game dev, and he also is fairly stubborn when it comes to certain aspects that he wants to be implemented. But you still don't want to have that guy be like, I'm not going to say anything or even think about anything unless I can back up that promise. It's like, no, you don't want to do that. You want it's like having a concept artist. You know what I mean? Like, you want them to be able to totally go off the cuff.
But there's a very thin line between going full Peter Molyneux and just Gabe Newell from Valve, where you just clam up for years and you don't interface with the community at all.
Yeah.
So you have to. What?
No, he's going to get food. I was going to say.
Okay.
You go ahead and keep saying.
But anyways, yeah. So there's a thin line between giving too much access to the creative process, where Chris Roberts is just spitballing ideas like crazy, and then everybody goes, "That's great. That's what we're gonna have. We're gonna be able to age. We have to shave. The trees will grow in real time. We can chop them down, and those trees won't grow back." And Chris Roberts promising Squadron 42 one of these days.
Yeah, people just need to be more contextual about stuff. I know that the internet in general is super, super bad at contextualizing, but it still has to do that. You can't hold somebody accountable for kind of talking on you can't even want them to be on things like around the verse or reverse the verse or that type of thing, and then say I'm still something, then you are held to it like gospel. You know what I mean? It's like,
I know, and there, like I said, there's a balancing act, and I'm kind of salty about the pushback of the flight model from 3.4 to 3.5, because at CitizenCon they said, oh, we're just going to come in the next patch, the 3.4 patch. And then, of course, they get farther down, and it's like, oh no, we're moving it back. It's going to be this date. There's a lot of that going on. But when the year started, I would have just been happy for two to three good patches this year, and that's pretty much what we got going on. Sure, I'm not getting what I wanted out of this patch coming up 3.4, which is the new combat flight model, but we are getting some really nice things.
Yeah. I've said this before, especially with 3.4, is that while I'm disappointed that stuff got moved, at least it was explained. I understand why. Like, I'm looking forward to 3.5, and then things may change, but
but a lot of people on the outside looking in don't realize that this is kind of normal for Star Citizen, where we have the best laid plans of mice and men and whatnot, where Chris Roberts will say something to a crowd of people at CitizenCon, and then next week things change. And that's been kind of like how it's been going for years, and it's just like, oh man, if only we can just kind of keep stuff straight. But now that we're getting some of these bigger pieces of technology out of the way, object container streaming, we're knuckling down to more gameplay loops and delivering art assets like Hearthstone and its moons and ships and stuff like that. We can start having a little bit more stability in our releases, I think, coming up, and we can start upholding those promises of delivering this kind of stuff. That Chris Roberts has said, or at least weeding out the stuff Chris Roberts has thought he wants in the game, and playing with those ideas, see if they're fun, see if we should develop them even more, that kind of stuff. Like the Tavarin Kung Fu would be nice to have. We're getting the idea of having melee takedowns or melee fighting in the future, which could be a thing. Yeah, we just got to get there.
I can't wait for zero-G knife fighting, because that's how I'll handle all disagreements in the bar. You guys want to? You guys want to have a fight in my bar? Take it outside. Take them. Pull the knives out and see who's right.
No, forget taking it outside. Turn off the gravity in your ship. I want that.
Pull off knives and start fighting each other. I don't want to clean up. You're behind
the bar serving drinks, and you just hit the big red button that turns off gravity.
And then you have No, it turns off the gravity, and it starts playing that Star Trek music when Kirk and Spock were fighting each other.
Yeah.
Classic.
Next question comes from Mayonnaise, who asks, do you think Star Citizen will have a security rating similar to EVE? It already does. Each system has its own security rating from, I don't know if it's numbers or like low to high, but it's not high sec, low sec, null sec like you see in EVE, but it's got its own unique rating based off of the map. You can actually go to Star Map and find it. So.
But it'll probably be less distinct than Eve's is like, all right, if you're in 0.7, then Concord's response time is exactly this wherever you are in the system, right? It'll probably be, maybe this is speculation, but more realistic is in, okay, if I'm on the edges of the system far away from all the developed stuff, maybe it's a lot longer than it is if I was literally at a planet where like a main base is for the UVC.
Look at Crusader itself. Yella it's got a goddamn drug lab in it. You know, like it's got an outlaw station in it. Like there are some places they're in security, highly secured areas, which will be hotbeds of criminal activity and not be safe.
And if I remember correctly, for some, like there was like a lore post or something that dealt with Grim Hex. It was like Crusader security just doesn't go to that.
It's too
like Yellow.
It's just too hard to police because there's just so many people who live in Grim Hex that aren't criminals. They're just squatters. So if they had to go fully man and take down that place, you have such a opportunity that you're just going to get civilians caught in the crossfire who they're just squatting. And then you've got a huge PR nightmare because Crusader Security murdered everybody in the station. It's not going to be, this is not HC Vertigo level of like, I can kill everybody, it's okay. It's like in lore, that's horrible. But yeah, that's also a purpose of saying like there's always, every system's going to have something for everybody. Not necessarily a lot. If you want to be a criminal, it's obviously not a good idea to be in a system where the cops can be called and you can be taken down within a certain amount of time. But next question comes from Vulture07, who asks, although we already have OCS, which is almost a silver bullet for what we had, FPS is still a problem when too many players are together and spawn ships. Do you think do you think that is the next technical breakthrough that will help sustain and already exists in game, plus all the systems, bigger ships that will be on the roadmap map? Yeah, I mean that's part of what server meshing is. Server side OCS plus making sure more people can come in, making sure that you can have.
There's a lot of tuning for OCS. There's a lot of tuning. A lot of that also is you got to realize that CIG doesn't have the server. Object container streaming, the server culling just yet. We have client server culling, client side OCS, which helps you reduce the memory overhead and the CPU overhead for calculating all this data. But there still is a bottleneck at your Ethernet cable when you get data sent and received from the servers for CIG. If there's enough geometry, enough interactable objects, enough players moving around in one location, and you end up going to that location, say Teach's Ship Shop at Levski, where everybody wants to go to see the cool ships on sale, and then they get depressed because of the prices. When you go there, you're still receiving all that data from the server because we don't have the ability to cull out all that information just yet. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done on the network side, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which camp you fall into, CIG appears to be prioritizing Squadron 42. So a lot of the technology they're building is designed for the more single-player focused experience for Squadron 42. So we probably won't see server meshing or any sort of network upgrades for Star Citizen for a little while.
Well, ironically, I think we'll probably start seeing it in 3.5 because it's on the roadmap for 3.5. There are two major hurdles, both of which are for implementing server meshing.
Streaming.
And I think they're they're related to object container streaming. One is called the server, like I guess it's kind of like the server hopper, like how it sorts people and things into servers, which allows one server to actually be multiple servers, so you can actually have some.
Or the instance manager or something to that effect.
It's something to that effect. Right. I'll pull it up right now, but it actually is a technical name that they say. And there's another one which is about managing traffic, which I'm assuming is something like OCS.
335. I remember they had OCS.
Not 335 and 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, which is say that's not a while. That's March. That's a couple months away. That's not that far away.
Parallel network jobs, which I think will help.
Parallel network jobs and Lobby Refactor are the two ones that I said, and they both have mentioning of Library Refactor has mentioned specifically of multiple serving clients, which will help server meshing and parallel network jobs. Just they can handle greater number of connections. The system will allow for increased player count. So
There you go.
one of those things that's going to be added to that has got to be server-side OCS or some sort of that, some version of that.
And the nice thing about the network side, they don't necessarily need to patch the client to do anything on the server side. They can actually, as we get further along and more technology gets deployed, maybe they just take down the servers for a night or so and they patch the servers up, and then suddenly you come up and you're like, oh, we have some new technology on the server. That's new way of handling code on the server side. You don't necessarily need to touch the client at all to actually do that. I can imagine.
All right. Next question comes from Gaming Mogwai, who asks, I know I sound like a broken record, but any ideas on when we're going to flesh out piracy? And what are your ideas for piracy? We kind of talked about that a little bit with the disabling effect. Once they figured that out, piracy is just going to be what we have now, only reverse cargo hauling.
Yeah.
So instead of going from one place to another and selling your cargo, you take that cargo from those people, then take it to another place and sell it. That's pretty much all it's going to be.
Yeah,
it's piracy it's shipping with guns.
Yeah,
the more
then stripping components.
Yeah,
strip components, hold people hostage, ransom.
Yeah.
Right there's a whole
Reverse
nuance,
bounty
but it all requires
Yeah.
disable.
Or just right now you got extortion. Pay me money or I shoot you.
Yep.
That kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
Next question comes from Bruce Arena, who asks, I was just watching some aviation YouTube videos, and I was wondering, do you think Star Citizen should have a navigation system similar to aviation system? Or do you want a more waypoint kind of navigation system?
We have a pretty waypoint navigation system right now, and I think that's probably for the best for, I know people hate me using this word, but accessibility in the video game. People don't like that in PC gaming because it means you get the unwashed plebeians from that play Candy Crush, and they can start the. But if you want to make things more accessible for people, a waypoint driven module method is better.
Are they talking about like making it more work to like you have to manually navigate around to places as opposed to click on waypoints?
Yeah, he's talking about like more like, where am I? Oh, I'm at, coordinates this, rather than saying I'm here and then just plopping a waypoint down.
I mean, maybe they'll come up with areas that are like nebulous, and your navigation system is fritzing out and you do have to somehow kind of figure it out, but you'll need like compasses and some kind of way to I would
love to have some kind of compass or direction indicator on my ship so I can figure out which way I'm going. That would be great. Something that points to like a virtual compass that points to like OM2 or something.
I'm sure they'll. Obviously the cockpits are and the MFDs and stuff are very basic right now, but I'm sure they'll start adding things like your ability to put your own waypoints down, your ability to share those waypoints in game. Some ships may, we all talk about fuel and stuff for accessibility to distant places, but a lot of times in the real world and in, I think, Star Citizen, they will have a scenario where only certain ships with a certain, sophistication of navigational system will be able to navigate to these far reaches because, and they'll be the only ones that can keep track of where their ship is at, whereas a smaller ship won't have a system sophisticated enough to go into these uncharted places, quote unquote uncharted.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. I think they'll implement that eventually.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree too. I think they eventually they'll add it in there. And I think the other thing that's important to note is that navigation officer is probably going to be a thing. And if navigation officer is going to be a thing, that navigation officer can't just sit there going, they're going to have to actually have a job for them. Same with engineers, same with, gunners. Every multi-crew ship is going to have to be fun. If it's not fun, then there's no point to it. Like Pulsar is a good example of fun. Every ship, even the captain, every ship's job, even the captain, is very important. If they're not working correctly or if they're not working well together, then nothing happens. Like when Texas and I were playing Pulsar, we got so good as a crew together that we would enter combat and instantly kill them. They'd be dead within the first 30 seconds because we knew exactly, Texas would aim, he would be firing it, and then our pilot would be working with Texas Skulls to try to line the ship's guns up properly, and then Guahir was our engineer who'd be, hitting things with hammers and trying to fix them while I was like doing everything I could to hail them or to direct, do all the things that a captain would do. And Grokkies was a science officer, would just be dumping viruses into them, all at the same time. And I wouldn't have to direct them much other than just kind of small directions, and they'd do it. So
I was also the greatest FPS combatant.
yeah,
in that
with
game,
you
too.
while you were shooting monsters with your fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I was
you were
so
trying to
drunk. I thought I was actually using a gun, and it was my fire extinguisher.
We were
and I was
trying
like,
to
Why
fight
are they
him.
dying?
We were fighting the equivalent of a boss in the game, and on an away mission, and he was killing them. We were shooting at them with a freaking fire extinguisher. Oh, so good. But I mean, that's so because of those kind of features, you're going to need a navigation officer that's good or knows what they're doing. So I imagine some coordinate system will eventually.
I can imagine he was very quiet in the corner because the extinguisher would give him +5 to suppression.
Oh no.
He deserves that one, Texas.
Yeah. Next question comes from UK Dude, who asks, do you think the Fuel Rats will find a home in Star Citizen? I do. I think the Fuel Rats
I
will
think so
find a home.
too.
Yeah.
I think so
Sure,
too. Yeah,
absolutely.
there'll be fuel missions for them. NPC and PC fuel missions.
Mhm.
Fueling up players and NPC ships.
Vulture 7 asks, if Hurston and Arcor, 2 planets, took almost 2 years, we both saw last year in the demos and around this year being made. Do you guys feel that they reduce the scope of attention to detail in order for ship systems rapidly? No. She's
I just
asking
don't think
like,
they'll launch with all the systems.
yeah,
They were building the tools to make those procedurally. They talk on a couple panels about that process and about what the strides they've made in those tools, and they kind of demonstrate their ability to do that. And there's obviously a scale, like if you're trying to make, like we talked about earlier, just moons versus plot points or story centers like Hurston. They'll obviously spend more time on those, but again, there's a huge amount of content in terms of detailed places that they have in reserve for Squadron 42 that they will inject into the universe just right there, and then I think they'll have there'll be varying degrees of effort given into procedural versus bespoke parts of the universe.
and it's also important to remember that the reason why they chose Hurston as a system to start with is because it's the most complicated system outside of Terra and Earth. Because all 4 major planets of the system are populated.
Yes, the Hurston system. Definitely the Hurston system, you
Did I say
fucking
Hurston?
galactic historian.
Did I say Hurston system?
Hurston.
Stanton
Yeah.
system. My bad.
Thank you.
God damn.
Hurston.
Oh, sorry, late here.
Yeah.
And I'm not drunk, so obviously I need alcohol to be a historian. Stanton system. The reason why it's the Stanton system is because Hurston, ArcCore, Crusader, and Microtech all are very different in terms of their planets themselves, and different in terms of the fact that they're all settled and they all have landing zones on them. Most systems maybe have one, some of them have none, and so by building these systems, they're building the tool sets that when they come down to build future planets, it'll just be a much more of a plop and drop and spread. It'll be like we said earlier, the moons took something like a week to go from planning to finished, whereas before the moons took 6 months to a year just to create for Crusader. So we know that once they get the systems rolling, it's much faster. And I think even landing zones will become easier and quicker for them to kind of put together as they develop these tools. So it's hard to judge speed based off of what we see now. It'll probably be better to judge the speed if by next year we still only have maybe 2 years or so in the next 2 years to see where they're at, because I have a feeling like we'll probably have most of Stanton done by the end of 2019. But we don't know. I don't know. It depends on other factors as well. But if those factors, it won't. If there were other factors, then it won't be because planets are a problem. It's because they have to get a handle on jump points or some other technical aspect that's holding them back. So, anywho. Next question comes from Voltaire again, who asks, on the last RTV, CIG told us that trains or trams that exists in Hurston are similar in the ones we're having nowadays, because Hurston is an old planet, but future planets will have more futuristic ones. How do you envision that will be?
Gravlev trams.
Yeah.
Bullet trains, essentially.
Floating ships that are essentially just big space trains.
You have a
Around.
monorail system where you have the monorail on top of the tram,
Mhm.
and it just hangs, just hovers off the top monorail.
Maybe rail, or maybe cities in general that are like, I guess is beyond just the trail, the train, but like, more vertically developed cities like in Fifth Element, or these all these cities that have like traffic on like 4 or 5 different levels with flying cars and that type of thing.
Yeah.
What I envision is they will have Christian_CIG make like a Rubik's Cube planet where the tram is stationary, but the whole city moves underneath the tram.
Yeah. You go down below Stormwind, right? And like there's an underground train that goes under the ocean. That's what they'll be like.
Yeah.
I'll take the train to cross continents. That's what they'll do.
It'll be like Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where you have to take a hamster ball through the center of the earth. There you go.
I think it'll be a little bit more advanced, just like in Star Trek, where it'll just shoot you personally straight to your destination.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice. Cannons.
We'll have a
Man
man cannon.
cannons.
Shot out of a cannon at you.
I like it. I like it.
Next question comes from Lady Space Patrol, who asks, is there any feature that has been scheduled and then pushed back, and then as often as female character models? And when do you think we will see
Star Marine.
3.5?
Look,
Yeah.
Star Marine.
females are complicated. I mean,
Yes, they
female
are.
character models are complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I heard someone say BOIP, BOIP earlier for beard over IP,
Yes.
but the joke's on you guys. They're actually making boobs over IP.
Oh,
Okay.
God damn it.
That's right.
That's a little much. So
Oh, boy.
here's the reality, and I've said this before, and I think this is the case, is that I'm a little bit more forgiving now of like why it got moved from 3.4 to 3.5, because they kind of explained it. It's less of a it's not done, and more of we don't got time, which is understandable, and it seems like they're making it more of a priority now. But I've said this before, is that they've been saying that female character models should have been in 263 was when the first time they started talking about putting them in, and it just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And I can understand that people are upset, straight up, because people feel like they got abandoned, that they weren't a priority. And so people, especially I'm sure women who are playing the game, feel like that they're not a priority to CIG. And I had a whole big discussion with Disco Lando over this whole situation on the relay station, so I don't want to kind of go over it too much. But I do think that they made mistakes when it came to the female character model, and then those mistakes compounded on each other because they continue to develop in the wrong way. And the only thing I can hope for is that CIG learns from these mistakes and moves forward. And I really hope 3.5 will be coming out with female character models. I don't think it would be acceptable if they didn't.
And there's always a silver lining too. I mean, in the end, the benefit to the female character models will be all the DNA stuff that they're working on, that they've
They'll look
recently
so much better
gotten
than
to the
what we
point,
have now.
and they're still working on hair technology and all these things that are fairly core to everybody's character. But I think again, just from a silver lining standpoint, while it may be late, it'll also benefit from a lot of technology implementation that is brand new, and is going to be reworking the male character model anyway. So
Yeah. Now, when does 3.5 coming out? March. I believe it's the end of Q1, which I think is the end of March. So probably
end of winter, right?
Yeah.
Start of spring.
Yeah. So it'll be somewhere in, I guess sometime in March, probably towards the end of March would be my guess. So it'll be next year in 2019. The other thing though is that there have been some features like Star Marine was the big one. Weeks, not months, was a big one that got thrown around a lot when Chris Roberts said that when they were looking at that. The Squadron 42 roadmap is still nowhere to be found. They've talked a little bit about it, so we know that it's in the works still. But
ooh, totally forgot about that one. Damn.
Yeah.
There's been so much to be outraged over recently in Star Citizen. I totally forgot. I just there's only so much outrage I can
handle.
before
good. So many things that you can get mad at.
But like, so there have been a lot of things that have been jostled around a lot. So, but I do understand like lots of people are upset about that, and it's important to remember that CIG has been kind of pushing that around. And as I said earlier, like we found out, like 3 to 5% of the population of Star Citizen, approximately, is female. We don't necessarily know that's the 100% true because it's all fan estimates based off of polls that have been done by fans. But that's still like 5% of people in the game who feel like they're underrepresented. So. All right, that's the last question for that. We've got only like 2 or 3 more questions. One of them is, do we expect to see a vertical slice of anything Squadron 42 in this holiday stream?
I expect to see reused stuff. Nothing new. Like they are so busting their ass for CitizenCon and getting the patches out. I doubt they have any spare resources to create anything custom for the holiday live stream. I expect the holiday live stream to be the recap for the year. Recap stream.
Maybe they'll tease some of the things coming Q1 though. I mean, maybe they'll tease some of the technologies or some of the FPS or AI improvements, like with another gameplay demo of an AI mission, where you're fighting better AI or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll. A vertical slice is after I've watched the other vertical slice they did. And maybe they should do another vertical slice to make sure they're on track. But my God, I can only imagine how much effort it takes to.
My guess they're tapped out after CitizenCon and the 3 brand for what they can do on this.
We'll see very little.
Yeah. Next question comes from. Well, no, actually, if there was one place one time I'd expect to see the Squadron 42 roadmap, it would be at the holiday live stream.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We'll probably see that. Chris Roberts said December for Squadron 42, I think, on ATV at one point.
Like an update. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Brishana asks, should we be able to pin moon/planet locations instead of staying in quantum mode? I don't know what you mean by that.
Pin?
Like put a pin in a planet?
Yeah, she's saying that when you're about to fly to a point and you're done quantuming, but the only way you can see that location is by pulling up your quantum HUD.
You have to press B to see how far away from the outpost you are.
Yeah, I totally believe that should be available to you.
Yeah.
To
that's
navigate
something
without quantum mode.
That's more of a quality of life HUD thing. But yeah, I agree. I think you should be able to point a waypoint and say that's where I want to go, and then it's always on your HUD.
Yeah, it'll be there soon, TM.
Next question from Agent 1213 who asks, stuck at level ship bay, please help. Sorry.
Please, just put a beacon down. I need at least 2,000 credits though. I don't get out of bed or anything.
Anything less. I mean, I think 1,000 credits is the going rate for space Ubers these days. So.
A Levski rescue is about 1,000 credits.
3.3, man, that's steep.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't get out of bed for under 1,500, so it's gonna be 2,000 if you want me to get over to Levski and deal with the damn frame rate, and then maybe get shot in the back of the head by some other asshole who tried to break into my Cadillac. So,
all right.
Down.
So we've got 2 more questions. The last question is a real question. Is from
questions for like 3 hours.
I know because they keep coming in. They keep coming in.
Then shut them off.
No,
they keep coming.
Quite literally, these are the last 2 questions because one of them is kind of a fun one, but it depends on if you guys know that answer. But it's about your own personal stuff. And this one is: will this captain's table go on until the end of the next next week's captain's table starts? Yes, that's the answer. And the next one is: what are you on the new telemetry chart? Did you guys check the telemetry?
Yes, they have the 2 telemetry to show the frame rates people are getting versus stuff.
I can tell you that my average is 49 to 50 FPS with my setup.
How do I access this damn thing?
Just go to development.
Slightly
Development tab.
Robert Space Industries / telemetry. Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh wow! It says it's
I'm upgrading my computer. Here we go.
It says data unavailable for branch 3.2, but I'm not in 3.2, so they must have broke something.
Yes. I have by users NA, N%, NA, N%.
Yeah, I think they broke something.
Something's broken. Welcome to Star Citizen, everybody.
Yeah.
They've broken something.
I think when I looked
expected.
at it last, it said extremely average.
Yeah.
sure.
Mm.
What that
Mine
means.
wasn't even. Mine was below average. Like it was
No.
super. It was just above recommended specs.
Jesus
according
Christ.
But even so that though, mine was like below the average, but it was still at like plus 60 FPS. So
Mine's above
not bad.
average. If you ask any of my girlfriends, it's always above average.
Yeah, mine was.
Except
my
by your
GPU
own admission earlier.
Yeah.
exactly. Everybody's gonna be able to see the
If-
truth pretty soon with your new COD pieces.
If you
Yes,
said
my-
if you're talking about the score, my GPU was like 130 and my CPU was like 86. So just walking through the tiny man-sized penis. I'm sorry.
It's a good way to go out.
Spacesuit.
That's
To
great.
end this whole thing. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for this total of 3 hours and 44 minutes, which is pretty big since the last time the last longest one was like 3 hours 30. It's not the record, but it's like damn near close to the record of of length.
Honored.
So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Please do, and again, please do back Stack Up,
Stack
exclamation
Up.
point Valor in chat. We're still doing this fundraising all throughout until Friday the 16th. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll leave that link below. Please do donate, spread the love, tell other people. We're currently at last time I checked, it was $2,352 is what we've raised so far in the last 2 days. So we've still got 5 more days left. Please do donate and help out, and it means a lot. Stack Up's a great charity, and like I say every time, hope to see you guys again soon. But if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. So this is the after show. For those of you still watching on YouTube, you can end now because this is just us talking about rating and other kind of things like that because I can't turn it off the YouTube broadcast or the YouTube recording yet. So let's check who is live right now. Let's see. Games,
Like,
Star
download
Citizen.
this damn game.
Crucian is live and he's doing the Stack Up giveaway stuff. So let's send some love to Crew.
There you go.
For
Crucian Gaming.
yeah. Raid Crucian Gaming.
I
Go.
always call him Krugerson by mistake. Like, stop it, Vertigo. I'm like, okay.
I believe it's Krukayan Gaming. Not mistaken. I can help you out with this Pam situation.
All right, guys. Go say hello. Tell him Captain Stable sent you. He's raising money. Go help him out.
Mm-hmm.
Later.